Chapter 218. Chu Zhixing guessed with an envious expression. 145? 146? Seeing that Lu Yuanxi did not answer, Chu Zhixing thought that his guess was still too low and his expression became even more impressed. He did not expect Brother Lu to really be a hidden genius. At this moment, Bei Yunj happened to glance to the side and saw the clear 68-foot. Immediately, Lu Yuanxi heard a soft laugh from the side, as if someone could not hold it in. Lu Yuanxi looked at Bei Yunj expressionlessly and gritted his teeth. It must be a mistake. He grew up in our country, how could his score be so low? It was even lower than Bei Yunj's? Brother Lu? Before Chu Zhixing could ask, he was interrupted by Lu Yuanxi. Shut up. At first, Chu Zhixing was confused until he saw the 68-foot on Lu Yuanxi's paper. After a moment of silence, Chu Zhixing quietly put away his 66 paper, afraid that he would agitate Lu Yuanxi. However, at this moment, Bei Yunj showed a rare trace of pity and comforted him. At least the total score is over 100. Lu Yuanxi really wanted to curse. In Class 1. Jiao Jiao, what kind of big boss are you? You're second in the cohort again. The girl could not help but be excited. I'm lucky. Qin Youjiao smiled. It was only when Ling Jiwei walked into Class 1 that her eyes lit up. Jiao Jiao, I heard a teacher praising you in the office just now. You're second again and first in the liberal arts. Ling Jiwei teased. Isn't it time to treat us? Every time we take an exam, you all find reasons to exploit me. Qin Youjiao said coquettishly. Who asked Jiao Jiao to be so amazing? At this point, Ling Jiwei suddenly remembered Bei Yunj's results that she had seen in the office just now, and a mocking look appeared in her eyes. Unlike someone who can't be helped by mud. Wei Wei, are you talking about that Bei Yunj? Qin Youjiao was also quite popular with girls in class. The girls who often followed Qin Youjiao naturally didn't like Bei Yunj. Especially not long ago, Bei Yunj was ranked first in the Tiebao Forum for the most beautiful girl in school. Qin Youjiao's total votes were not even 1/5 of Bei Yunj's. Yeah, a total score of more than 300 points, 28th from the bottom of the grade. Ling Jiwei's tone was sarcastic and gloating. With these grades, I don't even know what university you can go to. Hearing this, a dark look flashed past Qin Youjiao's eyes as she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. Ever since she saw Bei Yunj playing the piano at the Lu family's house yesterday, she had been feeling uneasy. She was afraid that there would be a change in her performance today. Fortunately, Bei Yunj's results were within her expectations. She couldn't be compared to her. She came from that kind of high school. It's normal for her not to adapt at first. Qin Youjiao smiled faintly. What do you mean? She was a bad student in her original high school, let alone in a school like ours. Ling Jiwei was smug. She wanted to see how Bei Yunj would be slapped in the face after finding out about Qin Youjiao's results. At noon, Bei Yunj received a call from Marcus. Yunj, someone wants to buy the licensing rights for our project. Do you know about the Delaney Group? Marcus was extremely excited. Before the patent was officially released, Delaney had already offered a sky-high patent fee. One could imagine how popular Bei Yunj's first project was. Chapter 219. Even the top technology group in our nation wanted to buy out Bei Yunj's project patent, as if they were afraid that she would sell it to someone else. However, Marcus did not expect that before he could be happy for long. Bei Yunj said slowly, I'm not selling it. Marcus was speechless. I say, little ancestor, do you know how much Delaney paid for this patent fee? A patent fee of 10 figures. Is my patent cabbage? Bei Yunj smiled faintly. Marcus was speechless. 10 figures. It's signed for 5 years, Bei Yunj said concisely. In her previous life, Bei Yunj's first project had won the top award in the industry. As a result, the most news about her on the internet was about her sky-high patent fee that was skyrocketing every year. This was really a big boss who dared to suck the blood of capitalists. However, the capitalists had a love-hate relationship with this big boss. At this moment, Marcus calmed down and quickly organized his words. He smiled carefully and said, but our project isn't completed yet. Delaney is interested in the prospects of our project, but it's hard to say if we can expand the market. Then we can let him wait for my project to finish. With that said, Bae-yunj added slowly, when the time comes, the fee will be doubled. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. He sucked in a breath of cold air and hurriedly said, Okay. Then I'll talk to Delaney first. Okay. After Bae-yunj hung up the phone, she returned to class leisurely with her milk tea. However, Bae-yunj did not expect to see Chu Zhixing memorizing words alone. Have you eaten? Bae-yunj returned to her seat and asked. Chu Zhixing was caught secretly memorizing words. He looked a little shy and shook his head. Bae-yunj raised an eyebrow and said lazily, just nice. I don't want to drink anymore. With that said, Chu Zhixing saw the milk tea on the table. Thank you, Yunj. Chu Zhixing glanced at the girl who was playing with her iPad with her head propped up. He could not help but feel his heart warm. Why are you suddenly so interested in foreign languages? Bae-yunj asked casually. I want to apply for the summer camp at Our Nation's Medical Institute. I've always been interested in medicine, but Chu Zhixing scratched his head. My language skills are not good. I can't even write an application form. A dark look flashed past Bae-yunj's eyes. She turned her head to look at Chu Zhixing. Let me see. Chu Zhixing was stunned for a moment. He then took out an application form for the medical institute and a handwritten application description, and handed them to Bae-yunj. After reading Chu Zhixing's handwritten instructions, Bae-yunj said, Actually, you don't have to apply. Chu Zhixing's science results were indeed excellent. He also had a lot of medical knowledge and had a lot of opinions. To be able to reach such a level at his age, he was indeed a good seedling. No. Chu Zhixing thought that Bae-yunj was planning to open the door for him, so he said nervously, Why, Yunj, forget it. I want to get in through my own efforts. I don't want to be looked down upon. From the medicine last time, Chu Zhixing roughly knew that Bae-yunj should know someone from Our Nation's Research Institute. However, there had always been a person in Our Nation's Research Institute who had been his idol. He did not want that person to think that he had gotten in through the back door. Who knew, however? Bae-yunj's eyes suddenly curved as she teased slowly. Then who does little Chu want to be looked down upon? Chapter 220. Chu Zhixing's face flushed red. No one. It's not considered letting you in through the back door. Bae-yunj chuckled. She was planning to talk to Stephen about Chu Zhixing's handwritten application when she was free. As for whether he would accept it or not, it was all up to Stephen. Thank you very much, Yunj. But this application has a different meaning to me. I want to get his approval personally. Chu Zhixing smiled. Hearing this, Bae-yunj did not say anything. She only turned around and leaned on the table to take a nap. Until class started. Bae-yunj took out a blank piece of paper from the drawer. After pondering for a while, she started to write the entire page. Then, before Chu Zhixing came back with water, she casually put the paper into Chu Zhixing's English textbook and continued to sleep on the table. After school, Bae-yunj had just gotten into the car when she suddenly remembered the parent-teacher conference. Uncle Zhang, let's go to the Hua Corporation. Uncle Zhang nodded with a smile. Okay, Mississippi. Not long after, Bae-yunj sent Huashidu another message. Brother, I'll wait for you at the company today. A minute or two later, Bae-yunj received a reply. Okay, I'll get Sing-su to bring you upstairs. Seeing this message, Bae-yunj smiled calmly. Half an hour passed. At the Hua Corporation, Sing-su saw Bae-yunj's figure from afar, and immediately went forward to block the sun for Bae-yunj with a folder. Miss Pei, the sun is so strong. You have to bring an umbrella next time. Sung-su smiled. Thank you for your concern, Assistant Sung. After Bae-yunj and Sung-su walked into the company, she smiled brightly. Oh right, is Assistant Sung free next Friday? Sung-su's eyelid twitched and he had a bad feeling. Do you need my help with anything? I wonder if I can trouble Assistant Sung to hold a parent-teacher conference for me next Friday. When Bae-yunj smiled, her eyes were curved and her eyes were clear and harmless. However, when Sung-su heard this, he was scared out of his wits. What kind of joke was this? Holding a parent-teacher meeting for Miss Pei? Wouldn't Master Du bury him alive? That. Why doesn't Miss Pei try asking Master Du? Sung Soo smiled fawningly. Master Du dotes on you so much. Why would he reject your request? I'm afraid that my brother will be scolded if he goes. Bei Yunj blinked her clear and beautiful eyes and said honestly, Sung Soo, so you want me to be scolded? Miss Pei, please spare me. How would I dare to be your guardian? Sung Soo wanted to cry but had no tears. Bei Yunj. Then I'll think of another way. Since she had left the Qin family, she certainly wouldn't let the Qin family hold a parent-teacher conference for her. However, she had just taken over this body not long ago, so she did not know many people. Looking for Elder Zhong. Letting an extremely famous researcher sit in her classroom and be scolded did not sound like something a human would do. Looking for Yu Manran? He would be at the top of the headlines the next day. As for Marcus, who was far away overseas, that was even more unrealistic. Bei Yunj, who was thinking about this problem, unknowingly pushed open the door of the president's office. You're here? A man's deep voice sounded. Yes. Bei Yunj reacted and placed her backpack on the coffee table. Immediately after, she saw a slender and good-looking hand holding a bottle of milk and placing it in front of her. Yun, play by yourself first. I have a meeting to attend later. Chapter 221. Bei Yunj looked at the milk that seemed to have been specially prepared for her, and her pretty eyes moved unconsciously. Got it. She reached out to take the milk. Seeing this, the man chuckled softly and only left the office when someone outside reminded him. However, not long after, Bei Yunj pushed her homework aside and took out her iPad to check on the follow-up of her 2 interns' projects. Suddenly, Bei Yunj received several messages from Yu Manran. Qin Yojiao wants to enter the entertainment industry? I heard that she's planning to sign a contract with your second brother's personal studio. Is this woman manipulating public opinion for the sake of convenience in the future? I've already seen the company's marketing accounts clearing her name. Smile. Gugur, are you there? After reading these messages, Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow slightly. Indeed, she did not expect Qin Yojiao to choose to enter the entertainment industry at this time. According to the original novel's development, Qin Yojiao should have entered the entertainment industry after graduating from university. Then, Bei Yunj moved her fingers lightly and typed a paragraph of text. The new song is pretty good. Practice your high notes well this month. The next new song will be the one that made you famous. At this moment, Yu Manran, who was drinking water backstage, choked and coughed violently as his eyes widened in disbelief. Sister man, can you not look like a young girl in love? Why are you staring at your phone and smiling foolishly? What if the paparazzi take photos of you? The manager's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. She really did not expect Yu Manran to be so lucky to meet a benefactor in a bar. This new song made Yu Manran's popularity surpass several popular A-list female celebrities. If the next song could still be so popular, Yu Manran would definitely jump into the ranks of the A-list celebrities this year. I was chatting with Guur just now. We were talking about a new song. Yu Manran was a little weak. His recent popularity had already made Yu Manran feel that it was unreal. And Bei Yunj's words just now made Yu Manran feel like he was dreaming. The manager was suddenly even more agitated than Yu Manran. What did she say to you? Yu Manran's eyelids twitched. He turned to look at her and said, She told me to practice my high notes properly. My next song will be the one that will make me famous. If someone else had said something like this, she might have thought that the person was bragging. But Bei Yunj was different. That new song had only been released for less than a week, but it had already dominated all the charts in the country. Recently, the popularity of his new songs overseas had also been rising. There were even well-known singers who adapted and covered the song. In this situation, even she felt that this song was enough for Yu Manran to earn a lifetime of dividends. However, Bei Yunj even told Yu Manran that the next song would be Yu Manran's masterpiece. The manager felt goosebumps all over her body. Man, did your ancestors accumulate virtue for 18 lifetimes? How could such a lucky thing happen to her? Yu Manran said frankly, I'm starting to think so too. The manager was speechless. However, Yu Manran still couldn't help but worry. Qin Yojiao's motive for entering the entertainment industry was definitely not that simple. What if she was planning to use her identity as an artiste to step on Bei Yunj? In the villa, Qin Yu had just taken a shower when he saw his manager's serious expression. "What's wrong?" He looked up. "Miss Qin signed up for our studio." Chapter 222. What? Qin Yu's handsome eyes were like thick ink as the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Was Qin Yojiao crazy? Miss Qin wants to enter the entertainment industry. Logically speaking, staying with her brother would be more. She would feel more at ease. Before the manager could finish speaking, he felt Qin Yu's cold gaze and shut up instinctively. "My younger sister only has Bei Yunj. Don't forget it." Qin Yu snorted. "Get rid of this person in the first round. If she appears in my studio, then I'll get rid of you. Do you understand?" Hearing this, the manager felt a chill run down his spine and nodded hurriedly. "Brother Yu, don't worry. I won't let her in." At the same time, the manager could not understand why Qin Yu had changed his attitude towards Qin Yojiao. In the past, although Qin Yu did not come home often, it was obvious that he doted on Qin Yojiao. However, what he was sure of now was that the newly returned Miss Pei had completely become the person Qin Yu was most nervous about. At the Huo Corporation, Bei Yunj twirled the pen in her hand and slowly did her homework. Suddenly, the door was pushed open gently and a coquettish voice sounded. "Is Assistant Sung here?" Bei Yunj did not even look up as she said casually, "No." However, hearing the reply, the smile on the female secretary's face froze. It was obvious that she did not expect there to be a woman inside. She had been in the company for almost 3 months, and had found out that President Huo was not close to women. Even the staff around him were all men. But what was with this voice in the office? After some thought, the female secretary could not help but push the door open and enter. But what he didn't expect was to see a bright and beautiful girl sitting by the coffee table doing her homework. She was stunned for a moment before she smiled and said, "Are you President Huo's younger sister?" Bei Yunj's pen stopped. She did not expect her to come in. Her red lips curved and she looked even more charming, but her words were ambiguous. "If that's the case, then you can say so." These words made the female secretary's smile freeze. What did this girl mean? Alarm bells rang in the female secretary's heart. Did President Huo agree to miss being here? The female secretary seemed to treat herself as a regular here. At this moment, Bei Yunj didn't answer her question. She just bit her straw and wrote the question slowly. However, seeing that Bei Yunj didn't say anything, the secretary thought that Bei Yunj was guilty. "Little girl, are you President Huo's friend's little sister?" The female secretary was a little smart. She knew that Bei Yunj wouldn't be able to enter this office building if she didn't have a high status. "But little girl, you probably don't know that President Huo doesn't like women in his office," the female secretary said again. Upon hearing this, Bei Yunj looked up and sized her up. The female secretary was wearing a suit skirt that was cut short to her thighs. Her legs in black stockings were especially sexy. "So shouldn't you go out?" Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and looked at her calmly. There was no warmth in his eyes, which inexplicably made the female secretary a little flustered. "I'm here to look for Assistant Sung. I have some work matters to hand over. On the other hand, isn't it inappropriate for Miss to be doing homework here? Why don't I bring you to the reception room?" Chapter 223. Bei Yunj glanced at this troublesome woman, and then glanced at the phone screen. "They will be back in 3 minutes. Why aren't you leaving?" "Miss, please come out with me. As an employee, I have to do my best for my boss." The female secretary did not believe that this girl really knew when Master Du would be back. If he really came back in 3 minutes, would she dare to sit here? "What if I don't go out?" Bei Yunj leaned lazily against the sofa. Her black curly hair was spread out casually, but her eyes were soul-stirring. Even as a woman, she could feel how seductive this girl was. The female secretary gritted her teeth and deliberately scared her. "Miss, you don't want me to ask the security guards to ask you to leave, do you? A young lady with such a good family background should be the most afraid of losing face." "Miss Secretary, did you misunderstand something?" Bei Yunj suddenly smiled. Hearing this, the female secretary could not help but walk towards Bei Yunj. She thought that Bei Yunj was afraid and was about to give in. What did you misunderstand? The female secretary waited for Bei Yunj to explain clearly. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj suddenly stood up. Bei Yunj leaned close to her ear and said in a clear tone, "I'm not your president's sister. I'm his child bride." Hearing this, the female secretary's legs almost went weak. She had heard that many wealthy families groomed outstanding wives for their heirs. But in this era, very few people did so. Then, before the female secretary could retort, the man's light voice suddenly sounded from the door. "Yunyun, what are you doing?" Hoshidu had just pushed open the door when he saw this young lady's eyes crinkling. He did not know what she said to the woman beside her, but that woman's expression changed drastically. This child was making a fuss again. When Bei Yunj saw that Hoshidu had returned, she sat back on the sofa and looked at the female secretary again with a smile. The female secretary did not expect Bei Yunj to be telling the truth. President Hua actually came back at this time. She was flustered, especially when she met Hoshida's cold eyes. President Hua. Who let you in?" The man's tone was still cold and indifferent, but the oppressive feeling around him sent chills down her spine. "I." The secretary's pretty face turned pale, and she subconsciously looked at Bei Yunj, who was sitting on the sofa. She gritted her teeth and pointed at Bei Yunj. "I'm here to look for assistant Sung, but I didn't expect to see this lady in your office. That's why I thought of a way to get her to move to another place. To stay." The female secretary's voice became softer and softer. She knew that she must have offended Hoshida this time. She could only make this man soften his heart a little with her red eyes. "Is Tsung-su the owner of this office? Are you looking for him here?" Hoshida's gaze swept over her indifferently. He walked straight to his desk and pressed a few buttons on the landline. Soon Tsung-su arrived. "Master Du." When Tsung-su saw a pretty female secretary appear in Hoshida's office with red eyes, he immediately realized what was going on. These women really dared to praise him. Before everyone entered the company, they were warned not to enter the president's office. However, every year, there would be people who thought that they were exceptions and could gain Master Du's favor. How stupid! Tsung-su cursed in his heart. He knew that Master Du would blame him again. Chapter 224. Is this the person you've interviewed? The man's pair of lustful eyes were dangerous and deep. Tsung-su quickly lowered his head. "Master Du, I didn't take good care of the newbie. Get her out." Hoshida's casual words made Tsung-su wonder if he had heard wrongly. However, when his gaze landed on the person on the sofa, he seemed to have understood something. It turned out that there was a life-saving talisman. Tsung-su took a deep breath and looked at the newbie with an unpleasant expression. "Who let you in?" The female secretary bit her lip and glanced at Bei Yunj, who was sitting on the sofa. Her face immediately turned red and pale. She felt the difference in status between her and this girl sitting on the sofa. "I'm here to look for you," the female secretary cried. When Tsung-su heard that the female secretary still dared to push the matter to him, he suppressed his anger with a fake smile. "You came to the president's office to look for me?" The female secretary. Get out!" Tsung-su reprimanded with a dark expression. The female secretary looked at Hoshidu unwillingly. In the end, her gaze landed on Bei Yunj. She did not believe that this girl's words were true. In the next moment, the female secretary left with Tsung-su. "What were you talking to someone about just now?" After they left, Hoshidu sat on the sofa again and glanced at Bei Yunj's one-page homework. "I was helping brother." Bei Yunj's tone was calm, but her eyes were clear and seductive. Hoshidu let out a long laugh. His well-defined hand slowly tugged at his tie lazily and ostentatiously. "What did Yunyan help brother with? Brother has a lot of love affairs." Bei Yunj looked at Hoshida's noble and handsome appearance, and her eyes curved. "If I cut them off, will brother's heart ache?" The man's magnetic voice was low and flirtatious. He pinched Bei Yunj's face casually. "How would I dare, little kid?" There was a hint of indulgence in his casual flirtatious tone. The only thing Bei Yunj could see was the mole on the tip of her throat. She was emboldened. "Brother, come closer. Let's discuss something." What is it? Huashida's eyes were faint, but the corners of his upturned eyes were charming. When he lowered his eyes, his posture was so intimate and sexy that it made people blush. In fact, on the way, Seung-soo told him about the little guy's parent-teacher conference. However, at this moment, Huashidu looked at Bae-yeonj in front of him thoughtfully, as if he was thinking about something. Brother, seeing this, Huashidu raised his eyebrows. He did not expect Bae-yeonj to be so hesitant because of the parent-teacher conference. However, Huashidu soon realized that this young lady was clearly so bold that she was not afraid of the consequences. Suddenly, her fair and slender hand directly touched the mole on the man's Adam's apple. Huashida's gaze quickly turned dark and aggressive. He immediately grabbed that lawless hand. Bae-yeonj saw the mole move along with the man's sexy Adam's apple. It made her heart tremble. Then, she looked up and sensed a dangerous emotion in the man's eyes. It was almost indiscernible. Bae-yeonj. She had gone overboard. The man licked his thin red lips, his gaze fixed on her. His low and hoarse laughter tickled her eardrums. It was so sexy and made her heart itch. The darkness in his eyes made her legs go weak. Child, why are you being a hooligan? Chapter 225. Bae-yeonj's brain froze. She could not calm down when she saw this scene. The man looked at her angrily and amusedly. He did not know where this young lady got the courage to touch his Adam's apple. After sorting out his emotions, Huashidu leaned closer and rubbed his fingers against her face intimately. His low and magnetic voice was ambiguous and ostentatious. Do you want to see how bad I am? The light in the man's eyes was hidden. His evil and lustful demeanor made one's heart tremble. As soon as he finished speaking, the female secretary, who had pretended to come back to get something and was still unwilling to give up, happened to see this scene clearly. Her pupils constricted. President Hua. At this moment, Seung-soo arrived very quickly. Huashidu had just turned to look when he heard him reprimand her. You Chienya, since you're restless in the headquarters, transfer to another post now. Seung-soo's expression was ugly. He did not expect this woman to be so stupid and scheming. Suddenly, Huashidu, who had not cared much about this matter, spoke. There's no need to transfer. When the female secretary heard this, she was overjoyed. She thought that Huashidu was starting to take pity on her. However, in the next moment, the man's tone was indifferent and still unreasonable. The Hua Corporation doesn't need such an employee. In an instant, the female secretary's face turned pale. She did not expect to end up in an even worse state. President Hua, I am just here to look for something. The female secretary was incoherent and felt cold all over. She did not expect Huashidu to fire her directly. Seung-soo, are you taking the company's year-end bonus to retire in the company? The man sneered. Seung-soo, Master Du, I was wrong. I'll deduct this year's year-end bonus. If there are any employees who don't abide by the dress code next time, they will all be fired. Huashidu's heartless words made Seung-soo's scalp tingle. Yes, Master Du, please continue with your work. I'll handle the rest. After speaking, Seung-soo glanced at the female secretary bitterly. He was prepared to transfer this group of slightly good-looking people who wanted to seduce the president. He wanted to prevent all actions that would harm his year-end bonus next year. After Seung-soo sent them away, Bae-yeonj watched as Huashidu walked to his desk and prepared to work. She could not help but ask, Brother, are you angry? Hearing this, Huashidu glanced at her slowly and did not say anything, so that she wouldn't dare to touch anyone's Adam's apple in the future. Brother? At some point, Bae-yeonj had dragged a chair and sat across from him. She rested her chin on her hand and smiled as she watched Huashidu review the documents. Bae-yeonj leaned on the desk again and said with a smile, Brother, but I don't have an Adam's apple for you to touch. The man's strokes were smooth and flowing. Suddenly, Bae-yeonj's red lips curled up again. There seemed to be light in her eyes, and her clear voice sounded like it could melt one's bones. Brother Shidu. The elegant and noble man's upturned eyes narrowed, but the ink in his hand was dizzy and almost fell. He slowly raised his eyes and looked at the little girl who was about to turn into a spirit. He couldn't do anything to her and laughed softly. Huashidu reached out with his slender hand and gently tapped her smooth forehead with the pen cap. His seductive and magnetic voice was filled with a smile as he casually imitated her tone. Don't be coy. Brother Shidu can't take it. This seductive look was simply too alluring. Even Bei Yunja's heart beat faster when she saw this scene. She suddenly stood up, turned around, and walked to the coffee table to do her homework. Chapter 226. Seeing that the girl did not even raise her head, Hoshidu smiled silently and continued to read the documents in his hand. The next day, Chu Zhixing held the handwritten translation document in his hand and took a long time to confirm that this was the translation of his application instructions. In the entire class, only Bei Yunj knew that he was going to write this. However, what made Chu Zhixing incredulous was that this time, he had written a lot of medical terms in the instructions seriously. Bei Yunj was actually able to complete this instruction in school. It did not seem to have taken much time. Chu Zhixing suppressed the surging emotions in his heart and thought of Bei Yunj's foreign language marks. With such a level of translation, how could it only be 87 marks? Instantly, Chu Zhixing felt that he seemed to have unknowingly found out something incredible again. They were still in math class. The teacher slammed the podium and woke up the students who were sleeping. Why aren't you listening to the test paper this time? You're at the bottom again. Your class is at the bottom again. It's 10 marks lower than the average score of class 6. The math teacher was furious and pointed at the fill-in-the-blank question on the paper. The marking teacher said that only one person in the entire grade got the third question of the fill-in-the-blank question right. Don't you know the difference? Suddenly, Lu Yuanxi said faintly, It's luck. Luck? Then why didn't such a good thing happen to you? The math teacher hated the students in this class the most. They thought that they had a good family background and did not need to study seriously. Each one was more useless than the other. It didn't happen to me, but it didn't happen to my desk mate. Lu Yuanxi glanced at Bei Yunj, who only got the 3 fill-in-the-blank questions right, and his gaze became even more distant. He scored 28 marks in math, and Bei Yunj scored 30 marks. This fill-in-the-blank question was worth 2 marks each. The math teacher was speechless. The other students could not hold back their laughter. No way, right? No one in class 1 and class 2 got it right, but someone in our class got it right. The boy's tone was exaggerated. Sometimes luck can really cause a gap. This chorus almost made the math teacher's face turn green. In the back row, Lu Yuanxi whispered, This might not be luck. If one were to take a closer look at Bei Yunj's test papers, one would realize that Bei Yunj's test papers only had 8 correct answers and 2 correct fill-in-the-blank questions. The scribbles at the back were all wrong. Only the chemistry teacher was soft-hearted and gave Bei Yunj 2 points for her hard work. So what if you got this question right? Can someone from your class get full marks for the college entrance examination? The math teacher slammed the table. Subsequently, amidst the silence, Chu Zhixing muttered again for some reason, It's not impossible. Everyone. Ever since Chu Zhixing started hanging out with Bei Yunj, not only did he dare to scold his classmates, he even dared to scold his teachers now. Bei Yunj was really something. However, everyone thought about it and realized that Chu Zhixing wasn't wrong. Chu Zhixing only lost 2 marks on his math paper. Bei Yunj was the only one who scored on the third question. Thinking about it, this was the only question Chu Zhixing didn't answer correctly. The math teacher's face darkened. Chu Zhixing, don't. Suddenly, Bei Yunj suddenly curled her lips and clapped. Her voice was lazy. Well said. After that, Lu Yuanxi also clapped very respectfully. Even the classroom was filled with applause. Those who didn't know better would think that they were carrying out some mysterious and grand ceremony. Chapter 227. Seeing this situation, the mathematics teacher swallowed the words that he was about to say to Chu Zhixing. Immediately, he looked at Bei Yunj with an ashen face and said in a cold voice, Bei Yunj, don't think that. Thank you for teaching me well. Otherwise, how could little Chu be so courageous? This applause is for you. Please keep up the good work. Bei Yunj's appearance was languid, but her clear eyes only made people feel that she was sincere. The mathematics teacher was about to scold her when he forcefully swallowed back his words. His face turned green and red. In the end, he could only take a deep breath and say, "Continue the lesson." Seeing this scene, many students looked at Bae-yunj with admiration. A refined person was really different. However, Lu Yuanxi glanced at Bae-yunj. How could he not know that she was trying to protect Chu Zhixing? The mathematics teacher had a bad temper and liked to taunt his students. It was said that the last batch of students he taught almost committed suicide because of this. After school, Bae-yunj received a phone call. Unexpectedly, the person who called her was the director of Yincheng Hospital. "Miss Pei, there's something I have to tell you. Your family has invited Dr. Fang Gushing to come over for treatment. Do you know about this?" The director asked carefully. He did not forget that Zhong Shenglin had said that his security system, which had been modified by Bae-yunj, was worth more than 10 million yuan. He should indeed tell Bae-yunj about this. What? The light in Bae-yunj's eyes suddenly turned cold. Didn't they say that that person did not leave the city at will? That was why Mother Qin had persuaded old Master Qin to go to the neighboring city for the surgery. It seems that your mother gave him an expensive consultation fee, so Dr. Fang made an exception and came here. The director paused and said, "However, you don't have to worry too much. Dr. Fang is indeed an expert in this field." "When did he go over?" The director said, "Yesterday. The surgery was scheduled for tomorrow." Bae-yunj's eyes flashed coldly, and his indolent tone also turned cold. "Dean, can I trouble you with something? Miss Pei, please speak your mind." Naturally, the hospital director did not want to offend someone like Bae-yunj. To have such achievements at such a young age, if he were to grow up in the future, he would definitely amaze everyone. "Don't let Dr. Fang perform the surgery." Bae-yunj's tone was neither fast nor slow. However, when the director heard this, he almost couldn't react. "Miss Pei, he is one of the top experts in the country." The hospital director could not figure out what Bae-yunj was thinking. Since Bae-yunj had dealt with the anti-fan personally for old Master Qin's sake, she was definitely not someone who did not care about old Master Qin's life. "I know, but my father's life is too precious. I can't accept any accidents." Bae-yunj smiled, but there was no warmth in her eyes. "Tomorrow, the doctor I arrange will contact you and prepare for the old man's operation." It took a while for the president to react. "Ah. Okay. I will listen to Miss Pei." After hanging up the phone, the hospital director was in a daze for a long time. He could not understand why everyone in the Qin family thought that Bae-yunj was ignorant and incompetent. However, what made him even more emotional was that old Master Qin, who had dominated the business world for so many years, was actually willing to put his life in the hands of a young girl. Chapter 228. After that, Bae-yunj called old Master Qin again, and told him not to accept other surgeries. Old Master Qin, who loved his grandson as much as his life, naturally agreed without hesitation. In the evening, after Stephen saw Bae-yunj's message, he called. "Yunj, what happened?" "Someone found a doctor for my grandfather." The moment Bae-yunj said this, Stephen's temper rose uncontrollably. He chuckled in disbelief. "In this day and age, there's actually someone who dares to snatch patients from me. I might need you to talk to the director of the hospital tomorrow so that they'll be more assured." Stephen replied, "No problem. I'll get my assistant to contact that hospital then." "All right. Don't worry, Yunj. I'll be able to go to Yincheng this Saturday." "So soon?" Bae-yunj was a little surprised. "There happens to be an academic lecture. The higher-ups want me to come into contact with the new talents in your country." Stephen was smug. Wasn't it just a medical dispute with some stinky money? Did he really think he could do anything to him? At the mention of this, Bae-yunj's lips suddenly curled up. "Okay, then I'll see you on Saturday." After hanging up the call, Stephen was elated and was already typing a message, planning to provoke Marcus. He asked him to sign Bae-yunj, and he kept showing off. In the end, he was still the first to see Bae-yunj. At this moment, Marcus, who was sleeping in, had no idea that he had already fallen into a situation where there was a wolf in front and a tiger behind him. In the hospital, early in the morning, Mrs. Qin stood at the door of the ward with a livid expression. Beside her, Qin Yojiao was holding her arm. "Mom, don't be angry. The director didn't want to arrange it this way." Qin Yojiao's words seemed to be smoothing things over for the director, but in fact, she was directing the anger at Bei Yunji. Even the director could not help but glance at Qin Yojiao meaningfully. "Mrs. Qin, don't be agitated. Miss Pei has her reasons for making such an arrangement," the director said. Mrs. Qin laughed coldly. "What reason can she have? She wants the Qin family to be in chaos, so that she can be happy. Mrs. Qin, even if you don't like your daughter, you shouldn't say that." The school head disagreed. Mother Qin knew that the director of Yun City Hospital was highly respected. Then she said to him, "Back then my father-in-law made a will. If he passed away, most of the benefits in the family would be given to her." Director, how could a naive girl have so many ideas to go against her parents? These words were very obscure. However, the dean could also tell that Bei Yunji wanted to kill old Master Qin for the inheritance. "Mrs. Qin, although you're Miss Pei's biological mother, she still has the right to sue you for slander." The head of the hospital's expression turned cold, and this tough attitude stunned Mrs. Qin and Qin Yojiao. Bei Yunji had only met the director a few times. Why was even the director blindly helping her? "Director, that's not what my mother meant. I hope you can understand that my mother is concerned about my grandfather's feelings." Qin Yojiao's eyes were helpless. After all, Yunji's actions are indeed very unacceptable. Dr. Fong is already one of the top experts in the country. I don't know why she insisted on finding a doctor herself. The director was also an understanding person. After hearing this, he could not help sneering in his heart. They were both daughters, but one was doted on, while the other was a true genius that no one had discovered. Chapter 229. How far did the Qin family want to go? They left their treasures at home, and even hugged a rock and said it was beautiful. The dean's impression of this family was getting worse and worse. He said coldly, "Have you ever thought that maybe Miss Pei doesn't care about the Qin family's assets at all? With Bei Yunji's ability, if she really wanted to take over the Qin family, she didn't have to hurt old Master Qin at all. After all, this was someone Zhong Shenglin wanted to get to know." But, before Mrs. Qin could finish speaking, the dean interrupted her. "Old Master Qin has already agreed to this and signed a written agreement. Even if Dr. Fong arrives, I can't let him perform the surgery." After that, the dean left without even looking at him. This scene made Mrs. Qin's face turn red and livid. "Mom, don't be angry. You were too impulsive last time and made such a statement. Everyone will be biased towards her," Qin Yojiao said softly. Mrs. Qin lost control of her emotions and her eyes were frighteningly red. "Back then, I shouldn't have agreed to let them look for Bei Yunji." Hearing this, a dark glint flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes and she didn't say anything. Suddenly, "Student Qin?" Qin Yojiao and Mrs. Qin turned around and saw Fong Gushing's dark expression. "Haven't you arranged it yet?" "Mrs. Qin, although I came to Yuncheng because of Student Qin, I'm very busy." Hearing this, Mrs. Qin hated Bei Yunji even more, but she could only explain anxiously, Dr. Fong, I'm sorry. My mother had already discussed this with the dean, but because someone else in the family recommended it, another doctor also wants to treat my grandfather." Hearing this, Fong Gushing felt that it was ridiculous. He sneered with a cold expression. "Even I have a 30% to 40% chance of failure for this kind of surgery. Other doctors? Heh, I'd like to see who's so confident." Qin Yojiao pretended to hesitate. "That doctor doesn't seem to be here yet." Preposterous. His expression was livid as he went upstairs. "I want to know who is so extravagant." Fong Gushing was one of the top specialists in the country. In the past few years, he had indeed never encountered such treatment. Now, a person who hadn't even shown up was able to snatch away his patient. Was he treating him like a young doctor who had just made his debut? At this moment, could something have happened? Mrs. Qin frowned. Qin Yojiao laughed as a strange glint flashed past her eyes. Mom, it's not easy for you to pressure the head of the hospital, but Dr. Fong is not someone to be trifled with in their circle. It would be best to let Fong Gushing suppress the doctor hired by Bei Yunji. When the time comes. After the surgery, old Master Qin still remembered her good points. The office. Not too long after Principal Zhang returned, he brewed a cup of chrysanthemum tea to cool down. However, when he turned around and saw the email on the computer, he was stunned. Wait a minute. Who sent this email? The dean almost doubted if he had seen wrongly. Meanwhile, the office door was suddenly pushed open, and even the sound was mixed with anger. The director jumped in fright and turned to see Fong Gushing's furious face. Dr. Fong, I've heard a lot about you. Is it the rule of a private hospital that you don't have to knock? Suppressing his anger, the director smiled insincerely. Chapter 230. Explanation? What explanation? The hospital director drank his chrysanthemum tea expressionlessly. Old Mr. Qin is my patient. If your hospital doesn't let me treat him, do you not take human life seriously? Fong Gushing's tone was mocking. The hospital director smiled. Of course not. It's just that old Mr. Qin signed an agreement. This operation can only be carried out if his granddaughter, Bei Yunji, agrees. Isn't Qin Yojiao his granddaughter too? How would I know? Maybe the old man thinks Miss Pei is more sensible. With that said, the hospital director poured a cup of chrysanthemum tea slowly. Dr. Fong, have a cup of tea to cool down. Fong Gushing laughed coldly. Director, I don't want to beat around the bush with you either. Since I'm in Yincheng, I have to be responsible for this patient. From what I know, Miss Pei is not even 20 years old, and was cut off the moment she returned home. I really can't trust such a person's social relationships. Fong Gushing had only been told by Qin Yojiao that Bei Yunji used to live in an orphanage, and cut off her relationship with Mrs. Qin when she came back. He knew nothing else. Dr. Fong, is this the only solution? The hospital director's gaze turned cold. At this moment, Fong Gushing seemed to have suddenly remembered something and said with a smile, how about this? I'll give the hospital director some face. Since Miss Pei is confident that the doctor she hired is better than me, you have to let me know who it is. Hearing this, the hospital director fell into deep thought. He could not figure out who Bei Yunji could get to treat him. Why? Are you unwilling? As the living Buddha in the patient's mouth, you won't fool around with a little girl, right? The hospital director took a deep breath and glanced at Fong Gushing, who was determined to bite the bullet. In the end, he could only agree. At the same time, the phone in the hospital director's office rang. Hello, Director Who? I'm Miss Bei Yunji's attending physician assistant. Is it convenient for you to answer a video call? Oh, sure. The hospital director was a little dazed. He did not expect this mysterious doctor to come looking for him, but at the same time, he was a little nervous. He did not know who the Dr. Bei Yunji would be. After all, logically speaking, Fong Gushing was indeed the most suitable person to operate on old Master Qin. Miss Pei's attending physician requests a video call. Dr. Fong, do you want to come with us? The director asked. Frowning, Fong Gushing could only acquiesce. Video conference? He wondered what this person was up to. Did he know whose patient he had accidentally stumbled upon? Fong Gushing had a mocking expression on his face. He had already thought of how to mock this person. A short while later, it wasn't until the director turned on the projector used for video conferences that the two of them looked up and suddenly saw a figure eating instant noodles. The one who spoke was a very young voice. Hello? Dean Hu, can you see me? The corner of the dean's mouth twitched. Beside him, Fong Gushing sneered. Where did this random doctor come from? She was having a meeting while eating instant noodles? Why don't you finish your noodles first before we talk? The dean asked. I didn't eat noodles. After the assistant finished speaking, he turned his head and asked, who's eating noodles in the institute? Meanwhile, Stephen, who was eating instant noodles, shuddered. He slowly raised his head and saw the camera aimed at him. Stephen cursed. Bastard, who are you pointing the camera at? Stephen picked up his book, pressed down on the lid of the instant noodles, and got up to slap her. Chapter 231. When he saw Stephen's twisted expression, the hospital director knew that this conversation would not go on for the time being. Fang Gushing couldn't help but sneer. Is this the medical team Miss Pei found? Could it be that Miss Pei spent some money casually and found some random team overseas? The hospital director frowned when he heard these harsh words. However, before he could retort, the hospital director suddenly felt that the person eating the instant noodles looked familiar. He seemed to have seen him somewhere before. Have I seen him somewhere before? The hospital director muttered to himself. Fang Gushing couldn't help but laugh out loud. He felt that the hospital director was saving Bei Yunj some face. Hospital director, you're a reputable person in the country. How could you know this group of people from a medical institution, who might not have broken the law? The hospital director frowned when he heard this. Dr. Fang, don't be so rude. Then, just as Fang Gushing was about to continue speaking, the person on the other end of the screen returned. He wiped the soup off his beard and placed the instant noodles under the desk without batting an eyelid. The hospital director was speechless. He had already seen everything clearly. Was there a need to hide it? Hello, I'm Stephen, the director of Country R's Medical Research Institute. I sent you an email this morning, but you didn't reply. That's why I'm anxious. As soon as he finished speaking, Fang Gushing, who had been mocking him, froze. The hospital director jerked his head up and stared at Stephen's face. Our Country R's Medical Research Institute? Mr. Stephen. The hospital director's eyes widened. He finally realized where he had seen this person before. Wasn't this the person who had stood on the stage to speak at the academic exchange conference? Bei Yunj had actually managed to invite Mr. Stephen. This immortal's status in the medical industry was worlds apart from Fang Gushing's. The hospital director thought of the email just now. At first, he had wondered if it was a scam and hadn't dared to think in that direction. However, Mr. Stephen was actually the attending Dr. Bei Yunj had invited. Fang Gushing, who was standing beside him, obviously recognized the famous person in front of him. His face was pale and he stood there silently, as if he was part of the background. May I ask how Miss Bei Yunj managed to invite you? The principal couldn't help but ask. Isn't this network too wide? Even the big shots from overseas were not spared. It's mainly because my old friends introduced me. Stephen was obviously very happy at the mention of Bei Yunj. The joy on her face made the director of the hospital inexplicably suspicious. It was as if Bei Yunj was the important connection they wanted. This situation simply made the dean feel extremely complicated. A short while later, the director slowly turned his head and looked at Fang Gushing expressionlessly. Why aren't you saying anything? He couldn't help but feel a little nervous facing a big shot alone. However, Fang Gushing's face instantly turned green and red. You are? Stephen looked at him. Fang Gushing said stiffly, my name is Fang Gushing. I was Elder Qin's attending physician in the beginning. Listen to Yan. Suddenly, Stephen understood. He smiled amiably. I see. Actually, this surgery isn't too difficult. I'm fully confident that I can do it well. If Dr. Fang can do it, I can talk to Miss Pei. Hearing this, Fang Gushing's legs almost gave out. He didn't have the guts to make such a guarantee. Chapter 232. Mr. Stephen, I'm just here to confirm it. But since it's you, there's naturally no problem. Hearing Fang Gushing's 180-degree change in attitude, the director's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. Even if he eats instant noodles during meetings, it can't stop his professionalism. Dr. Fang, don't you think so? The director asked with a smile in his native language. Fang Gushing's expression was terrible, and he could not say a word. His mind was in a mess. He never thought that the person Bei Yunj found would be Mr. Stephen. Weren't Qin Youjiao and Mrs. Qin playing with him? Stephen's ability could be said to be the ceiling of this professional field. In the end, this mother and daughter pair still dared to come to him for treatment. Did they want to see him embarrass himself on purpose? At the door of the ward, Bei Yunj saw Mrs. Qin and Qin Youjiao sitting together, looking like a warm mother and daughter pair. But very quickly, Her eyes glanced over lazily, and she walked towards the ward with a basket of fruits. Bae-yunj. Mrs. Chin stared at her with a cold expression. Mrs. Chin, I'm not in the mood to listen to you. Bae-yunj turned around carelessly and glanced at her with a faint smile. Then before Mrs. Chin could say anything, Bae-yunj pushed the door open and entered. Mrs. Chin was stunned and gritted her teeth even more. Mom, Dr. Fong is back. Qin Yojiao pulled Mrs. Chin and reminded her softly. Hearing this, Mrs. Chin immediately changed her attitude and looked at Fong Gushing gently. Dr. Fong, have you talked to the director? I'm sorry to trouble you to have to settle such a small matter. After this operation is fine. Who knew? Fong Gushing interrupted her and sneered. Mrs. Chin, you really think highly of me. These words made Mrs. Chin unable to react. Why did she feel that Fong Gushing's attitude towards them seemed to have become colder? What do you mean, Dr. Fong? Miss Pei has already found an attending doctor. Why do you have to worry so much? With that said, Fong Gushing suppressed the urge to scold Mrs. Chin on the spot and knocked on the door of the ward before entering. Only Mrs. Chin and Qin Yojiao were left standing at the door with ugly expressions. In the ward. Miss Pei? Fong Gushing took a deep breath and respectfully said, Listen to Yen. Bae-yunj glanced at Fong Gushing and asked casually, Who are you? Nice to meet you. I'm Fong Gushing. Fong Gushing didn't mind Bae-yunj's lukewarm attitude at all, but old Master Chin, who was next to him, had a strange expression on his face. Last time, he had also heard Mother Chin's call to Fong Gushing. This person was extremely arrogant and had a bad attitude. But now Fong Gushing's tone when he spoke to Bae-yunj seemed to be carefully trying to please her. This wasn't an illusion, right? Why are you looking for me? Bae-yunj was not interested in Fong Gushing and did not even bat an eyelid. This is my name card. If you need anything in the future, you can contact me. Fong Gushing put his business card in front of Bae-yunj and added, I can also come to Yunqing without charging you extra. Bae-yunj raised an eyebrow and glanced at him. Okay, thank you for your hard work, Dr. Fong. Seeing that Bae-yunj did not hold a grudge against him, Fong Gushing heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, Miss Pei, you must be joking. It's my honor. Chapter 233. Even after Fong Gushing left, old Master Chin was still staring at Bae-yunj in a daze. He felt that this granddaughter of his was a little unfamiliar. In the past, Gu-er was introverted and did not have many friends. However, the current Gu-er had a strong youthful aura, and always gave off a high-spirited feeling. If it wasn't for this face, he would have suspected that the person in front of him was Gu-er. Qin Yojiao, who was outside the door, stopped Fong Gushing, wanting to know what had happened. However, Fong Gushing only left with a cold expression and did not say anything to her. Did Bae-yunj say something to Dr. Fong? Mrs. Chin clenched her fists and the first person she thought of was Bae-yunj. Mom, don't be anxious about this. Since she wants the doctor she knows to operate on Grandpa so much, let's wait and see. A dark look flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes, and she clenched her fists tightly. Jiao, I've wronged you. Mrs. Chin took Qin Yojiao's hand. Initially, Jiao had already found a doctor. She didn't know why Bae-yunj was so stubborn and insisted on finding another doctor herself. Mom, I don't care about this. I believe Yunj is doing this for Grandpa's own good. Qin Yojiao lowered her head and forced a smile. It's just that a few days ago, I submitted some documents to second brother's office and was eliminated in the first round. Second brother seems to have really changed. With Qin Yojiao's appearance and popularity, it was impossible for her to be eliminated in the first round. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Chin's temper flared. All of them are really rebelling. If it wasn't for old Master Chin inside, she wanted to question Bae-yunj now. What kind of magic potion did she give Qin Yu and Qin Lang? These two people were willing to sever ties with their family to protect her. Jiao, don't worry. They will still find out how good you are in the end. Mrs. Chin caressed her head lovingly. Qin Yojiao hugged Mrs. Chin. Mom, I only have you now. Silly child. At noon, Bae-yunj returned to school and canceled her morning break. When she walked in from the classroom, She heard several girls discussing some emotional topics. Bae-yunj could only hear the boys' Adam's apple. Inexplicably, Bae-yunj suddenly thought of the situation last time. When class was about to start, Lu Yuanci came back with a basketball. "Deskmate," Bae-yunj suddenly said. Lu Yuanci's eyes were somewhat guarded. "What's wrong? If a guy's Adam's apple is touched, will he be very angry?" It was also the first time Bae-yunj saw Huashida's gaze. Hearing this, Lu Yuanci slowly relaxed, then sat on the chair and chuckled. "How could I? What's there to be angry about?" Lu Yuanci asked. "Then why? Was he angry?" Before Bae-yunj could finish her question, she felt Lu Yuanci's gaze on her. "You touched someone else's Adam's apple?" Lu Yuanci asked. Bae-yunj just looked at him without saying anything. Seeing this, Lu Yuanci denied himself and laughed. "No, why did you touch someone else's Adam's apple for no reason?" Bae-yunj was silent for a moment before she asked, "Will it be very serious?" Lu Yuanci looked at her strangely and snorted lazily. "Not really. It's just that it's easy for something to happen." "What happened?" Seeing that Bae-yunj was very concerned about this question, Lu Yuanci thought for a moment and changed his wording. "You will want to have a new life with the person who touches your Adam's apple." Chapter 234. Bae-yunj froze. Lu Yuanci warned, "Don't do anything rash. Men are bad in this aspect. Most men might not reject such a thing even if they didn't like it." Suddenly, Bae-yunj seemed to understand why Huashida's voice was a little hoarse at that time. Lu Yuanci said, "Deskmate, your homework." Bae-yunj pushed the homework to him and turned around to calm himself down. Lu Yuanci was speechless. As expected of his deskmate, he was very cold. After school, Bae-yunj went to the A.M. Institute first. Just as Bae-yunj was teaching his two interns, a middle-aged man in a suit barged in. "Is Miss Pei here?" Bae-yunj raised his eyebrows and saw that his eyes were calm. After glancing at the two interns, he walked straight to the camera. "I'm Delaney. Miss Pei should have some impression of me, right? The contract we discussed last time." At this moment, the door was pushed open again and Marcus's voice sounded. "Delaney." He had finally stabilized Bae-yunj, but Delaney was looking for trouble at this time. "Delaney, I'm warning you, don't anger me." Marcus also walked in front of Delaney, his face livid. Seeing this, Delaney was a little surprised. He had heard that Marcus treated the new member as a treasure, but he did not expect it to be to this extent. "It looks like Bae-yunj is really important to our nation's computing institute." Delaney smiled and his gaze landed on the screen where Bae-yunj's face could not be seen. "Miss Pei, can't you show your true face and talk?" As soon as he finished speaking, Tich and Jasmine, who had been following Bae-yunj in class, held their breaths. They also wanted to know what their teacher looked like. "There's nothing wrong with that." Bae-yunj's tone was lazy. Then the camera panned and everyone saw Bae-yunj's eyes clearly. The girl had black hair and red lips. Her gaze was cold and her eyes were flirtatious with a faint smile. However, when she raised her eyebrows, she had a rebellious youthful vibe. She was unbelievably young and beautiful. Teacher. The two interns beside him were shocked. Their teacher was actually so young. He was too good-looking. "If you want to sign the right to use it, look for Marcus to draw up a contract." Bae-yunj said indifferently, "Are you Miss Pei?" Delaney found it hard to believe that someone who could create such a project would be so young. He had seen many young geniuses, but he had never seen someone like Bae-yunj, who was aiming for the Busaka Prize at such a young age. "Is there anything else?" Bae-yunj looked up. When these words fell into the ears of the two interns, they automatically thought of Bae-yunj's daily sentence. "Do you have any more questions?" This kind of precise control, impatient and threatening tone simply reminded them of the nightmares they had in class. "Miss Pei, this should be your first time signing a contract, right? With such a price, very few people are willing to cooperate," Delaney said. Bae-yunj chuckled. "After all, there aren't that many smart people." Delaney was speechless. He seemed to have been mocked. "Miss Pei, if I don't do this project, who would dare to do it?" Marcus and the two interns beside him felt their scalps go numb when they heard that Delaney dared to threaten Bei Yunj directly. "Delaney, is there a lack of people in your circle who gamble with their lives?" Bei Yunj teased. At the same time, Delaney subconsciously raised his head and froze. "You." Chapter 235. Delaney clenched his fists and stared at Bei Yunj's face. Was this really a young lady in her 20s? Why was she more intelligent than those old researchers? "It's up to you whether you want this contract or not. I've also said that after the project is completed, any company that wants the right to use it will have to pay double the fee." Bei Yunj was neither cold nor warm. Delaney was speechless. Forget about doing research. She would be a rare talent if she went back to the company with him. "I'll sign it." Delaney gritted his teeth and only said these two words. As for the others, they quickly turned to look at the livid Delaney. He was going to sign it so soon? Didn't he still think that it was too expensive, and that a dignified CEO was acting shamelessly? "Yes, close the door. I have to go to class." Bei Yunj nodded without any psychological burden. Delaney, who wanted to curse, was speechless. In the end, Delaney still left weakly. Marcus, who was at the side, could not bear it and patted his shoulder to comfort him. There will be many opportunities to work together in the future. Delaney, who was stabbed in the back, almost had a distorted expression. Then, Titch said carefully, "Teacher." "What's wrong?" Bei Yunj flipped through the information and frowned. Why did he take so long to explain such a small amount of content? "That Delaney just now is my father." Titch braced himself and admitted. Bei Yunj paused and looked up at him. "You want to go home with him?" Titch shook his head frantically. No. Teacher, I wanted to come to the research institute myself. I was afraid that you would feel pressured." Titch's voice became softer and softer. What if the teacher thought that he was here to be a spy? Bei Yunj did not even raise his head. "Pressure? Write fewer strange reports and hand them to me. I'll feel less pressure." Titch was speechless. Jasmine was speechless. Sorry, it was their fault. "All right, let's continue with class." She glanced at them with a deep gaze. Bei Yunj felt that he was still too young, and had not suffered the hardships of society. He actually agreed to Marcus's request to teach an intern and Marcus's little niece. At night, Bei Yunj came back late and did not see the man. Normally, Bei Yunj would have asked Auntie Meow first. But now, when Bei Yunj thought about touching his Adam's apple, she did not know how to face Hoshidu. Bei Yunj. What a bad move. She calmly took a deep breath and went upstairs. In front of the desk, Bei Yunj casually combed her black hair with a pen. Only a small strand of hair was left in front of her ears. How would I know that there was such a thing? Bei Yunj couldn't help muttering to herself as her slender fingers twirled the pen. But in the end she still touched him an hour later. Bei Yunj went downstairs to get some water. She didn't expect to see the man standing sideways at the long table pouring water. "Brother." It was Bei Yunj's first time seeing Hoshidu wearing a black cotton shirt. It was very textured. The shirt was neatly tucked into his suit pants. His shoulders were wide and his waist was narrow. His long legs were too abstinent. However, at this moment, the man's eyes were deep. His posture was lazy and sexy. The two buttons on his collar were loose, revealing his exquisite collarbone. His entire person was lustful and frivolous. It was simply a criminal temptation. Ha! Chapter 236. Why was his hair wet? Bei Yunj saw that Hoshida didn't say anything and looked at him again. The man's gaze was different too. The light in his eyes was completely hidden. It was ambiguous and dark, as if he was blatantly seducing her. Bei Yunj's gaze seemed to have been burned. She quickly looked away and asked, "Why is your hair wet? Did you drink?" He still smelled of alcohol. Bei Yunj frowned unconsciously and suddenly remembered something. The last time at the Qin family's old residence, Hoshida seemed to have smelled of alcohol too, and he looked a little strange. Could it be that he couldn't drink? "Don't tell me you fought with someone?" Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes moved. Before she could finish speaking, the man suddenly leaned closer. He leaned over and looked straight at her. he said casually. It's little Yun. Bei Yunja's heart suddenly beat faster when she was suddenly stared at like that. Forget it. Bei Yunj didn't intend to ask further. She pulled the man's sleeve and wanted to bring him upstairs. Who knew? The man suddenly grabbed her wrist with one hand and leaned lazily on the long table. He reached out to her head again. You. Before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, Hoshida suddenly took off the fountain pen that was coiled around Bei Yunja's hair. At that moment, Bei Yunja's black hair scattered, but her sparkling eyes were staring at him. The man seemed to be in a good mood. His eyes darkened even more, and his magnetic and pleasant laughter sounded in a low voice. Call me brother and I'll return it to you. Bei Yunj looked at his wet hair and said gently, Are you going to take a shower later? Suddenly, Bei Yunj was gently knocked on the head. You only want to take advantage of me all day long? The handsome and noble man's posture was light and lazy. His voice was long, as if he wanted to seduce her. Bei Yunj was speechless. Hence, Bei Yunja's good temper in her life was almost used up today. In the bedroom, after Bei Yunj blew Hoshida's hair, she could tell that Hoshida's voice was a little hoarse and magnetic. It seemed that he had caught a cold. He didn't know what was going on today. Bei Yunj recalled the scene just now and her eyelids twitched. Brother, why do you like to bully people after drinking? The man didn't answer. It also attracted Bei Yunja's attention. Brother, I'll get you some hot water to take a bath. Don't go out. Bei Yunj softened her tone again. You've caught a cold. You have to get better soon, right? The man's eyes fell on her without an inch of avoidance. Seeing her bright eyes looking at him, his eyes unconsciously darkened. Yes. Hoshida's voice was low and magnetic. Seeing this, before Bei Yunj could breathe a sigh of relief, she suddenly heard a voice coming from downstairs. It was very light, but it gradually became clear. Shidu? Shidu? Old Madam Ho must have gone upstairs. When Bei Yunj heard this, she was about to walk out of the door when she suddenly remembered that this was Hoshida's bedroom. Bei Yunj was speechless. At this time, if she went out, old Madam Ho might get engaged to her brother at the end of the year. Thinking of old Madam Ho's urgent mood, Bei Yunj felt that she could not let old Madam Ho see her in the bedroom. However, she did not know what would happen if she left Hoshidu alone here. Bei Yunj turned her head and looked at Hoshidu for a long time. She only thought of one idea. After the old madam went upstairs. Chapter 237. Alas, let's go find sister. Mo pulled Alas and discussed in a childish voice. Alas tilted his head as if he didn't understand anything and just circled around his little master. Grandma, I'm going to find sister. Mo held Alas's hand and said happily, Go. Old Madam Ho frowned. After turning on the lights, she only saw the hairdryer on the table. She muttered to herself, Why isn't he here? He should have just come back. Old Madam Ho muttered in the bedroom and walked around. At this moment, Bei Yunj was huddled in the corner of the closet. Her entire body was a little stiff, but she couldn't move for fear of being discovered. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't understand what the person who hid in the closet was thinking. Wasn't he sullen? Until Bei Yunj's ears suddenly felt an itchy heat. The man's low and magnetic voice was lazy and sexy. It made her ears burn. Yun, sit on brother's lap. Bei Yunj's entire body froze, and her heart beat uncontrollably fast. Brother you. Before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, the man suddenly pulled her over. Her whole body was trapped in his arms, sitting on his lap. The pleasant cold fragrance around her was mixed with the smell of alcohol. The quiet and secluded space was filled with a sense of taboo. Before she could break free, she heard a low laughter in her ear again. It was ostentatious and ambiguous, making one's heart tremble. Yun, do you want brother to recover faster from his cold? This time, all of Bei Yunj's calmness and self-control were shattered. This man today was simply asking for her life. Not long after, Mo returned. Grandma, sister isn't here either. Mo pursed his lips and said. It wasn't easy for him to come and see his sister. All right, baby. Maybe your brother took sister Pei out to play. Old Madam Ho coaxed. Let's go back first, okay? But I want to wait for sister. Mo hesitated. Suddenly, a lass broke free from Mo's hand and ran towards the closet. He held a floral ribbon in his mouth and pulled it out happily. It was as if he had discovered something incredible. Inside the closet, Bae-Yunja's eyelids twitched. She could only take a deep breath and take off her coat. She was completely unaware that in this narrow and dim environment, the man's eyes fell on her without hiding anything, and his eyes gradually darkened. Mo, what is the lass talking about? Old Madame Ho was puzzled. I'll go take a look. Mo quickly ran over and found that a lass was pulling a floral ribbon. It looked a little like the belt on Sister Pei's clothes. Mo, what is Eris doing? After old Madame Ho asked, she was about to walk over again. Grandma, it's nothing. Momo blinked and glanced at the wardrobe. Finally, she secretly pulled the tape from Alyssa's mouth. Eris, we should go home. There's roast chicken tonight. After Mo finished speaking, Alyssa gave up on the idea of the belt. It happily rubbed its little master's cheek. Seeing that old Madame Ho had finally left, Bae-Yunj also breathed a sigh of relief. She liked Mo more and more. Fortunately, there was Mo otherwise, if she was discovered. She was really afraid that old Madame Ho would contact her old master on the spot. However, when Bae-Yunj thought of this man's actions just now, her eyelids could not help but twitch. You did it on purpose. Bae-Yunj stared at Huashidu and said expressionlessly. The man leaned lazily against the wooden board. Chapter 238. Bae-Yunj was speechless. Seeing this, the man's low and hoarse laughter was hopelessly sexy. Yunyan, what's wrong? Bae-Yunj's eyebrows moved. She wanted to stand up, but she tripped over something in the dark and fell back into the man's arms. Bae-Yunj seemed to have accidentally poked the man's firm abdomen. She heard him grunt softly, making her blush and her heart race. Brother, Before Bae-Yunj could finish explaining, she met the man's eyes. The man leaned against the wooden board. His gaze was frivolous and his eyes were dark. His entire aura was lustful and deadly. However, at this moment, Bae-Yunj started to notice the man's Adam's apple through the dark light. But in the next moment, Bae-Yunj quickly looked away. Seeing this, the man's lips curled up imperceptibly. Before Bae-Yunj could react, he suddenly leaned closer. He lowered his voice and laughed cynically. Where did you touch me just now, little greedy cat? At this moment, Bae-Yunj was really about to explode. The next day, Huashidu woke up very early. However, when he was reading the newspaper downstairs and waiting for Bae-Yunj to come downstairs to eat, he saw the little girl glance at him and sit down at the table. Thank you, Aunt Meow. After Bae-Yunj thanked Aunt Meow, who brought the dishes over, she continued eating. Huashidu did not know how he had offended this child. During the meal, Huashidu scooped the porridge slowly, but his gaze was fixed on Bae-Yunj. Yun, I'm full. Brother, eat slowly. Bae-Yunj suddenly stood up and smiled at him. With that said, Bae-Yunj took her backpack and left. The man tapped his fingertips on the table and thought for a moment. Aunt Meow, what's wrong with Yun? Aunt Meow. Sir, I'm sorry. I'm not too sure about this either. My child had a high fever last night, so I cooked dinner and went home. Huashidu narrowed his eyes. Yes, it's fine. Maybe she's not in a good mood. Sir, you can coax her more. Miss Pei is quite cute. I like her very much too. Auntie Meow smiled. Yes, she's cute. He laughed casually. When a little girl is angry, she's like a cat with its fur standing on end. However, he had a feeling that there was something that made the little girl so unhappy. On this day, the sensation that spread from abroad to within the country shocked everyone. Even the top 3 on the headlines were slaughtered. Hashtag Delaney Group's new technology hashtag country our computing institute. Delaney Group hashtag don't say knowledge can't change fate hashtag in the past. News from the scientific research community rarely made it to the top of the list. But this time, it really shocked everyone. As the most high-end technology group abroad, the Delaney Group had actually signed more than $1 billion worth of technology rights. If converted to their country's currency, it would be 10 billion. Furthermore, the usage period was only 5 years. Even the Delaney Group, which was famous for being stingy, had been ruthlessly squeezed dry. This made the netizens excited. No way, 10 billion? Back then, those who said that they were doing scientific research and didn't earn much came over and counted. How many zeros are there? What a ruthless move. Ha 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 ha. I heard that she's the new ace member of Country R's Computing Institute. And she's a young lady from our country. Chapter 239. Our country? This is too glorious. To be honest, the only person our country can really produce is Zhong Shenglin. She shouldn't be young anymore. It's a little weird to call her a little sister. I want to argue. Then why didn't she stay in the country? Is the air overseas sweeter? Question. I'm convinced. There's even a contrarian here? Did he lose his mind from chasing celebrities? Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Are you treating the big boss as a popular celebrity? Take care of your street, understand? At the Computing Institute. Old master, look at this news. Is it talking about our master pay? After interacting with Bei Yunj, Si Qingyan's relationship was quite good. He did not care that Bei Yunj was a few years younger than him. What the hell? Zhong Shenglin put on his glasses and scanned the news. His old face darkened and he started to gnash his teeth. That B** starred really got off easy. F***CK. It's really master pay. Si Qingyan was shocked. Zhong Shenglin slapped the back of Si Qingyan's head. New member. In the past 2 years, other than her, has Country R's Computing Institute recruited anyone else? He was heartbroken again. Look at you again. You're also a new member, but you joined our institute a year or 2 earlier. What did you do? She entered the institute for a month and gave Country R's Computing Institute a 10 billion yuan project. She made the headlines and was in the limelight. What about you? Si Qingyan was speechless. Not everyone would be able to get 10 billion in their lifetime, okay? Zhong Shenglin's gaze became even more determined. No, I have to poach her as soon as possible. This was really a mistake of 100 million yuan per second. Not only Zhong Shenglin, even Steven, who was hiding in his office and eating instant noodles, was speechless. Was Marcus's luck exploding? Why was their institute so lucky this year? Cheng Zihuai, who had also seen this explosive news, had a dark gaze. Zihuai, what are you thinking about? Qin Youjiao smiled. She had just finished styling herself when she saw the news on Cheng Zihuai's phone screen. Qin Youjiao raised an eyebrow and teased deliberately. I wonder how old a female researcher with such achievements is. But I believe that you will be able to do the same in the future. Hearing this, Cheng Zihuai did not agree. He was indeed talented, but that was only when compared to ordinary people. The ace member of the Computing Institute of Country R was one of the rarest of geniuses. There was no way she could be compared to her. Zihuai, what's wrong? Why are you so unhappy? Qin Yuxiao asked with a coy smile. Cheng Zihuai snapped back to his senses and shook his head. You know this person too. I know? Qin Youjiao froze. Cheng Zihuai clenched his fists and pursed his lips. It's the teacher I wanted to follow before. This is her project. These words surprised Qin Youjiao as well. She had never thought that the teacher Cheng Zihuai wanted to follow would have such ability. It was no wonder that Cheng Zihuai had been depressed for so long when he did not get this connection back then. However, after seeing this news, Cheng Zihuai was probably not in a good mood now. After all, if he had become this person's student back then, the Cheng family would have risen because of this person. She's too arrogant. Chapter 240. Qin Youjiao said with a frown. Ranwu Pavilion. Hearing this, no matter how unbalanced Cheng Zihuai felt, he knew very well that if that person wanted students, there would indeed be a large number of outstanding students willing to follow her. She's indeed amazing. Cheng Zihuai's eyes darkened, but he was thinking about something else. Marcus had told him that this person was also in Yincheng. So if he found this person, there might be a chance for her to accept him. Zihuai, I believe you'll be like her in the future, Qin Youjiao said with a smile. Hearing this, Chung Zihui caressed her head and said with a smile, "Aren't you going to do a live stream? Go do the live stream first. I've already informed a few uncles I know in advance. If there are any resources, I'll push them to you first." "Zihui, you're so good to me," Qin Youjiao said coquettishly. Until Friday, the headlines started to be related to the Qin family again. The reason was that Qin Youjiao had accidentally revealed during the live stream that Bei Yunj had chased away Fang Gushing and found another famous doctor to operate on old Master Qin. The moment this news came out, many netizens started to scold Bei Yunj for being unfilial. No matter how much she fought with Qin Youjiao, there was no need to take the old master's life lightly. Then, the marketing account of Qin Youjiao's contract company even exposed all sorts of things. They said that Bei Yunj did this for the family assets. Because old Master Qin liked Bei Yunj, most of the Qin family's assets were left to Bei Yunj. With this news, more people were filled with righteous indignation. F***ck, old Master Qin likes her so much. Is she crazy? My heart aches for old Master Qin. If this is true, the Qin family has really attracted an ingrate. Qin Youjiao was scolded so badly a while ago. She's cleared her name now. Isn't it too fast? Indeed, this elder young miss wants to debut. The moment a certain someone debuted, she wanted to trample on another young lady no matter what. I don't know what illness she has. Jealousy? Confused. The two people above, let's earn money together. Back then, Qin Youjiao was the one who apologized and was even scolded. I think the real scheming person is that young lady who has never appeared before, right? Relying on Director Lin to clear her name. I feel bad that Director Lin still has to use her reputation to clean up the mess for some people in her later years. Not long after, more insiders began to reveal the truth. Director Lin's character is impeccable. However, if some people did not want to learn well, it would be useless even if the Daoyuo Immortal personally taught them. She's the daughter of Director Lin, but she's actually at the bottom of the level. Qin Youjiao is already second in the level. Gradually, the public's impression of Bei Yunj began to decline. In the office, Jiao, the company has already arranged for someone to follow Bei Yunj. When the time comes, we will be able to get a picture of who she invited for the surgery. But, are you sure that she won't hire any experts? The manager asked with a smile. Qin Youjiao drank the black tea and smiled at her. Are you sure that there's someone in the country who's better than Fang Gushing in this aspect? Although she did not know why Fang Gushing had left in anger, this might be because Bei Yunj had played some tricks. That's good. As long as you trample on her, your image as a young lady will be stable. Hearing this, the smile on Qin Youjiao's face froze. The word image had hit her where it hurt. Her eyes darkened as she pursed her lips. The young lady of the Qin family did not need Bei Yunj's existence. She would make this person disappear. Same as the Almighty. Chapter 241. However, Calligraphy Pavilion. More good. What made Qin Youjiao even more uneasy was that she seemed to be the only one in the entire industry who knew that Yu Manran was actually the eldest young lady of the Yu family. At that time, if Yu Manran's identity was exposed, it would probably affect her quite a bit. Sister, do you know Yu Manran? Qin Youjiao asked calmly. Yes. I don't know where she found a composer this year. She became popular with just one song, and her popularity is higher than the A-list now. Even they had their sights set on the composer. However, they could not get any information at all. It was said that it was someone Yu Manran knew. Sister, can you find that composer? Qin Youjiao said with a smile. She can bid as much as she wants. I want her to write a song for me. In the evening, when Stephen found out about this, he was so angry that smoke was coming out of his head. I'm a pheasant expert? Did you hear that? Did you hear what old Zhong said? F***ck, I'm going to sue those keyboard warriors. Stephen's face flushed red. He had never suffered such grievances in his life. Inspector, calm down. Our institute hasn't earned 1 billion yuan. Where would we get so much money to sue? The assistant immediately said gently. Stephen was speechless. If this brat hadn't been with him for so many years, he really wanted to fire him. Miss Pei said that Dr. Fong went to post an explanation. Don't be anxious. When they know who did the surgery, they won't dare to be so impudent. That's true. At this thought, Stephen's mood improved. He laughed coldly. A bunch of ignorant brats. I want to see if they still dare to talk nonsense when they know who they are scolding. Seeing Stephen's noble and cold expression, the assistant's eyelids twitched. Yes, you're right. What happened this time was beyond his expectations. Fong Gushing, who had just gotten off work and was about to have a candlelit dinner with his wife, was shocked. Then his face darkened. Who was the one who complained that his life was too comfortable? Did they have to drag him out and be mocked by the entire internet? However, not long after, the internet was still in a heated discussion. Following this, Fong Gushing's clarification video became the focus of everyone's attention as soon as it was released. It was crazily viewed and forwarded. Fong Gushing, who was shooting the video, was wearing ordinary clothes. He didn't look too good, but he said a few words politely. He had confirmed that the attending doctor hired by Bei Yunj was indeed more experienced than he was. He hoped that everyone could relax and stop attacking others. However, as the number of views of this video increased, there were actually people who started the momentum. Dr. Fong doesn't look too well. A certain heiress is 666. How could she threaten an innocent doctor? Just look at it. He's very reluctant to shoot a video. Is there anyone else who will wash Bei Yunj's clothes? Dr. Fong, blink when you're being threatened. We support you. Stephen sat in front of the computer and translated the comments one by one. His expression gradually turned ugly. These people really wanted to satisfy their own fantasies. Everything was said according to what they thought. There's no need to be angry, Stephen. They hate me, not you. Bei Yunj smiled lazily. That won't do. What right do they have to criticize you? Stephen was so angry that his face darkened. He might as well. He found the official social media account of Country A that the Our Nation Medical Institute had registered a few years ago. Guru Tong. Chapter 242. Stephen sneered. I'd like to see what else they can make up. After that, Stephen hung up the phone after exchanging a few more words with Bei Yunj. Calligraphy Pavilion more good. She couldn't wait for those stupid humans to open their eyes wide and take a good look at who the pheasant expert they were talking about was. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched when she was hung up on. She sent a message to her assistant to remind Stephen to board the plane. Not long after, she thought for a moment, opened the social media app, and scrolled through the headlines. She clicked on it and saw that the first post was a video about Dr. Fong. However, just as everyone was scolding Dr. Fong, someone suddenly noticed that a big shot had liked the video. They clicked on the profile picture and found that it was a verified official account. Country R's Medical Research Institute. Everyone. What was going on? Why would Country R's Medical Research Institute like Dr. Fong when they had nothing to do with him? Then, just as they were feeling uneasy, they saw that the official account that had not been updated for a few years suddenly reposted Dr. Fong's clarification post. What was going on? Could it be that the expert Bei Yunj hired was from Country R's Medical Research Institute? Many people couldn't help but gasp when they saw this. However, they were also puzzled. How did Bei Yunj know someone from Country R's Medical Research Institute? Could it be that it was also because of Director Lin? Director Lin's social circle was too wide, wasn't it? Because Country R's Medical Research Institute had publicly reposted the video, Qin Youjiao's team, who was manipulating public opinion, didn't know what to do for a moment. They could only wait and see. At this time, the netizens were also confused. I've checked. Director Stephen of Country R's Medical Research Institute is an expert in this field. He's a world-famous expert. Oh my god, Bei Yunj is too amazing, isn't she? What does this have to do with Bei Yunj? Even if it is, it's Director Lin's credit. Don't joke around. Do you believe it? Everyone in the circle knows that Stephen's surgery volume is limited in a year. Even if Bei Yunj is booked, it won't be this year. Stephen even performed surgery for her family. The Qin family is nothing in the world. Do you understand? The person above is harsh, but it's the truth. Stephen's number of surgeries is limited. This year's patients were confirmed in March. Bei Yunj skimmed through these comments and returned to the Computing Institute. Master Pei, quick. Come and take a look at my project. See if there's anything that can be improved. The moment he saw Bei Yunj, Si Qingyan enthusiastically pulled Bei Yunj to his research lab. Brat, stop right there. Zhong Shenlin suddenly appeared and immediately separated the two of them. Take care of your own projects. Don't take shortcuts. With that said, Zhong Shenlin looked at Bei Yunj gently. Yunj, I heard that the contract you signed with Marcus is for 3 months? When Si Qingyan heard this topic, he knew what the old master was up to again. Haha, he had not managed to poach her after so long. He even complained that he was hindering him from poaching her. After Si Qingyan left, Bei Yunj smirked. I was in urgent need of money back then, so I signed for 3 months. What about now? Zhong Shenlin asked urgently. Elder Zhong, you can see that Marcus is very good to me, said Lin Feng. Bei Yunj's eyes curved. So at least for now, I can't think about this. Same as the Almighty. Chapter 243. Bei Yunj's meaning was clear. She was indebted to Marcus for recognizing her worth. Even if she had not promised Marcus that she would stay in their institute in the future, at least she could not decide to come to the Computing Institute at this time. Hearing this, Zhong Xinglin's heart ached even more. What kind of luck did Marcus have? He really met someone like Bei Yunj, who was sentimental about old ties. Yunj, I understand what you mean. But if you choose the Domestic Computing Institute, I sincerely hope that you can choose our Computing Institute first. Zhong Shenlin smiled. Although I might not be able to offer the generous conditions that Marcus offered, it's a private computing institute. If you're willing, I hope you can be my successor. With that said, Bei Yunj's eyelashes fluttered and she looked up at him again. Usually, even if it was a private research institute, it seemed that more people would want their children to inherit it. Just like in her previous life, as a well-known physicist in the industry, Mrs. Pei had also nurtured Bei Yunj in that area, hoping that Bei Yunj would inherit her physics institute. In the end, Bei Yunj secretly opened a computing institute herself. Because of this, Mrs. Pei was so angry that she did not speak to Bei Yunj for a month. Thank you, Elder Zhong. Bei Yunj said with a smile. You don't have to be too stressed. My grandson is indeed studying computing, but his aptitude is average and he can't control the Computing Institute. What I hope more is that the Computing Institute can be passed down and walk towards glory. Zhong Shenlin looked at the long term and focused more on the computing industry in Country A. As for his grandson, he had also left behind a lot of family assets, enough for them to live in peace for the rest of their lives. Saturday, Bei Yunj went to the airport and received her quietly. About 10:30 p.m., a tall middle-aged man with blonde hair and blue eyes came out. Bei Yunj recognized Stephen at a glance from the photos online. At the same time, although Stephen had just gotten off the plane, he was still refreshed. He said excitedly and happily, Tisk, let's walk faster. Maybe Yunj is waiting. The assistant was speechless. She's not your granddaughter. Why are you so happy to see her? Suddenly, Stephen and Selena saw a beautiful young girl walking towards them. Bei Yunj took off her mask, revealing her delicate and beautiful face. She smiled and said, Stephen, we finally meet. Stephen froze when he heard this familiar voice. This was Yunj. Stephen could not come back to his senses for a long time. He had heard Marcus brag that their Yunj was especially beautiful, and did not believe it for a moment. But now this standard Oriental beauty's face was really hard to find fault with. Especially the bright and beautiful expression between her eyebrows. It was unforgettable. Yunj, I really didn't expect you to look like this. After a while, Stephen couldn't help but laugh. Let's go. I'll be a good host and take the two of you to dinner. Bei Yunj chuckled. Sure. This Yin city is really not bad. Stephen laughed loudly. However, in the corner, a sneaky young man secretly took a picture of Bei Yunj and Stephen walking together. However, what he did not expect was that Bei Yunj did not bring her to the hospital. Instead, they went to a scenic spot to play. He thought for a moment and called Qin Yojiao's manager to tell her about this. You don't have to let me see it. Just post it online. Just say that Bei Yunj hired a quack overseas and is eating, drinking, and having fun with others. She doesn't take old Master Qin's illness to heart. Chapter 244. What if he's not a quack? The young man could not help but hesitate. Then we have to post it even more. The manager chuckled. If that person cures old Master Qin, what's the point of posting it? On the other hand, if we do this, more people will think that Bei Yunj is gambling. I got it. The young man nodded and stopped following Bei Yunj and the rest. Inspector, Miss Pei, someone followed us and took photos secretly just now. With that said, Stephen, who was eating soup dumplings, almost choked. Why didn't you say so earlier? At this moment, Bei Yunj said slowly, I saw it. It's all right, I'll delete it later. When she said this, those who didn't know would almost think that Bei Yunj was planning to delete her post. Only Stephen vaguely remembered how Bei Yunj made the headlines back then. There's no need for that. Stephen patted his chest, his expression confident. Don't worry, leave this to me. Then, Stephen pulled Bei Yunj and his assistant along and took a photo as a souvenir. Soon he posted it on his social media app and Marcus's phone. Soon, Marcus sent messages crazily. You went for a meal with Yunj? Are you there? Let me show you Yunj's Computing Institute identity card? Smile. How childish. Do you think I can be angry? Boring. Haha, I've blocked you. Goodbye, brother. After reading this long string of messages, the corners of Stephen's lips twitched. Wasn't this childish enough? He wasn't angry? In the afternoon. In the ward. Dad, I've said it before. This isn't a child who grew up in our family after all. We don't know her background. You're still. Before Mrs. Qin could finish speaking, she was interrupted by old Master Qin. If you continue to spout nonsense, I'll get Qin Ting to send you back to your parents' home. These words made Mrs. Qin open her mouth with an ugly expression, but she didn't know what to say. Are you still worthy of being a mother? You're so righteous even when you talk bad about your daughter. Shameless. Once old Master Qin was angered, he felt dizzy. The nurse beside him quickly comforted old Master Qin, telling him not to get angry. Mrs. Qin pursed her lips and said, but the news on the internet was also taken by someone else. It can't be that someone deliberately tried to harm her. Who took it? I'll get my lawyer to sue him right now. Upon hearing old Master Qin's words, Mother Qin's face turned green and red. She was speechless. She couldn't hope for Grandpa Sheng to come to his senses. Hey, this person looks familiar, the nurse suddenly said. Mrs. Qin's eyes lit up. You know him? Who is it? Old Master Qin glanced at Mrs. Qin. Disgust flashed across his eyes, and he closed his eyes impatiently. Let me think. The nurse racked her brains and felt that this person looked very familiar. A few minutes later, Mrs. Qin became a little anxious. She suddenly exclaimed, I remember now. This is Stephen. What Stephen? Mrs. Qin suddenly had a bad premonition. The director of Country R's Medical Institute, Stephen. The nurse looked at old Master Qin enviously. Mr. Stephen rarely takes on surgeries. This year his surgeries are full. Miss Pei must have put in a lot of effort for you. She's so good to you. She's a filial girl. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Qin's face turned pale, and her eyes lost focus. How could this be? How could Bei Yunj invite such a person? Chapter 245. Could it be Director Lin? But how could Director Lin have such a wide network? Look, this is someone who can even step on her own daughter. Old Master Qin laughed coldly. Mrs. Qin wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she could only bite her lip with a red face and remain silent. At this moment, a group of netizens who did not know the situation were about to tear into each other. A certain young lady is really interesting to go out and play with an old man at this time. I really feel bad for Director Lin. Even if you blow up your account this time, I still want to scold you. You just can't compare to Qin Youjiao. Don't you know that? Why are you scolding Bei Yunj? A group of people are confused and think that they are righteous. Don't you know how to write the word cyberbullying? This kind of B*TCH should have such extravagance. If you have the ability, blow up my account. The matter was full of twists and turns, and it was getting more and more confusing. However, under the guidance of Qin Youjiao's marketing team, it still went in the direction they wanted. However, it wasn't long before another shocking scene appeared. A few minutes later, Qin Yu, who had been filming overnight for 2 days, immediately reposted that post when he saw it. Qin Yu? Smile. As for Qin Lang, who was training and had his phone confiscated, there was no movement. However, to everyone's surprise, Qin Lang's studio reposted Qin Yu's comment immediately after. Crush Qin Lang's studio? Smile. In less than a minute, the comments exploded. Ha 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 ha, they're here. They're here. They're here with the anger of a sister complex. It's about to start. Is Brother Lang's studio trying to make me laugh to death? Sure. I'll protect Brother Lang's sister. Reporting, second sister-in-law's fans have gathered. Reporting, we'll gather again after third sister-in-law's fans finish eating. Sob doghead. I'm speechless. So what if you have a best actor brother and an esports player brother? Are you relying on your fans to clear your name? I'm scared. You have a lot of fans and you're awesome, okay? Entertainers are ruining the country. Entertainers are ruining the country. Qin Yu and Qin Lang had many fans, but more importantly, this matter made people have a bad impression of Bei Yunj. As a result, some of Qin Yu and Qin Lang's fans were still persuading them to delete this post. After all, it was really too much. But who knew? At this moment, a certain group that was usually rarely active suddenly reposted Qin Yu's post, as if they had agreed. Research Institute, Zhong Shenglin. Smile. Dean of Biology of Yincheng University. Smile. The former principal of Yincheng University. Smile. Professor Yu Guang. Smile. Yincheng University Medical Dean. Smile. Our nation's Medical Research Institute. Smile. This scene made one's scalp tingle. Everyone. Did he break through the dimension? What was going on? Was half of the scientific research community mobilized? Soon, everyone saw that Country R's Medical Research Institute had reposted someone's post. Our nation's Medical Research Institute. Heart, our nation's Medical Research Institute. Stephen, my friend and me picture. At this moment, everyone was shocked. So the old man who was rumored to be having fun with Bei Yunj was Stephen, the director of the Our Nation's Medical Institute. F***CK. What a deity. DBQ, Mr. Stephen. I actually didn't recognize you. Is Bei Yunj a big boss harvester? Chapter 246. Lin Lanjun is her grandmother, and Stephen is her friend. The moment something happened to her, half of the scientific research field and 2 cis-obsessed brothers protected her. I'm so jealous. I'm jealous. Goodbye. I'm starting to understand why Dr. Fong's expression isn't too good. This isn't an expert, but an ancestor. The one who offended him is the ancestor. The biological daughter of the big shots? The little darling of the brothers? Please, Master Pei, write an autobiography of the group's love. The moment Qin Youjiao debuted, Bei Yunj was scolded and became a trending topic. Isn't that so? You're trying your best to push Bei Yunj away, but she's really loved by the group. On the internet, the people who had followed the trend to slander Bei Yunj seemed to have disappeared without a trace. On the contrary, only the haters who had started to slander Qin Youjiao were left. In the office, Qin Youjiao's expression was terrible, and she wanted to smash her phone. She never thought that this matter would take such an unrealistic turn, that was even more unrealistic than a dream. Jiao, this is quite unexpected. But don't worry, the company's public relations are already handling it. Don't worry. The manager was also anxious, but Qin Youjiao had just signed with their company, so it was not good for her to act like she was flustered. Thank you, sister. Qin Youjiao's expression improved slightly. At least, she still had a company behind her now, so she would not be too outnumbered. At the whole corporation. Seung-soo, apart from telling you about the parent-teacher conference last time, what else did Union say? Hwashidu thought of how the little girl was throwing a tantrum, and asked casually. I think so. With that said, Seung-soo saw that his Master Do seemed to be thinking about something. Master Do, did you have a fight with Miss Pei? Hwashida glanced at him, and did not say anything. This situation made it difficult for Seung-soo to understand. However, Seung-soo suddenly remembered what had happened in the past 2 days. Master Do, have you seen the recent headlines? What's wrong? Hwashida looked up and asked. It's that Miss Pei was maliciously slandered. However, the 2 young masters of the Qin family and some seniors in the scientific research field are very protective of Miss Pei. Currently, this matter has been resolved. Seung-soo couldn't help but exclaim when he thought of the melon he had eaten. Especially the phrase Big Boss Harvester. It was simply very popular. Aside from the big shots they knew, if anyone else found out that this little princess was living in the home of the president of the whole corporation, they would probably have a mental breakdown. Malicious? Hwashida's pale-colored eyes gradually turned cold and deep. There was an unfathomable danger in them. It's the tricks of the entertainment industry. The other Miss Qin of the Qin family has signed with an entertainment company. I'm guessing that the entertainment company is personally involved. After Seung-soo finished speaking, he added carefully, Master Do you need me to show my face? Next time. This would also prevent those people from thinking that Miss Pei had no one backing her. There's no need. Hwashidu narrowed his eyes nonchalantly. His deep voice was emotionless. You caused trouble for my child. How can there be a second chance? Hearing this, Seung-soo immediately understood. Master Do didn't intend to let that company continue to operate. Seung-soo. Okay. When he returned, Hwashidu saw the young lady quickly greeting him and going upstairs. He didn't even look up when he was eating. The next day, Bae Yunj had just gone downstairs when she saw Yu Hanran and Hwashidu sitting together. Before she could leave, she heard the man say, Union. Chapter 247. At this moment, Yu Hanran also noticed Bae Yunj. He had a teasing look in his eyes, wanting to see how this couple interacted every day. From Hwashida's casual question, the 2 of them seemed to be quarreling. What's wrong? Bae Yunj turned around and looked at him with curved eyes. Come here. Hearing this, Bae Yunj glanced at him and then glanced at Yu Hanran, who was waiting for a good show. She walked towards Hwashidu. When Hwashidu saw this, the corners of his lips curled up slightly. He stood up and narrowed his eyes casually. He held her wrist with one hand and took off the rubber band. It's too hot outside. With that said, Hwashidu stood in front of the girl and reached out. His slender and well-defined fingers gently lifted her curly hair and slowly tied it up for the girl. This scene made the smile on Yu Hanran's face freeze. Wait a minute. Shouldn't they be quarreling? Why did he let him see such a scene? After tying her ponytail, Bae Yunj glanced at Hwashidu. Actually, she had long lost her temper. I'm going to the hospital. I'll be back later. Bae Yunj touched her hair. Okay. Hwashidu curled his lips and reached out to rub her jawline. Yu Hanran was speechless. Hey guys, am I invisible? In the morning, Stephen was undergoing surgery. Almost 4 hours later, the door to the operating theater opened. The surgery was very successful. Old Master will be fine after resting well. The other doctor smiled and could not help but say to Bae Yunj, It's all thanks to Miss Pei that I have the chance to share the stage with Mr. Stephen. You must be joking. Bae Yunj smiled. However, in the eyes of the Qin couple, this scene caused them to have complicated feelings. They had always felt that Bae Yunj was a loner and had no friends. They did not expect her to be friends with Stephen. They did not know how they got to know each other. Gur, it's been hard on you this time. Mr. Qin stepped forward and said gently. Bae Yunj's tone was indifferent. It's my duty. The smile on Mr. Qin's face froze. Of course, he knew that Bae Yunj was so attentive because of Old Master Lee. Otherwise, if it were him or Mother Qin, Bei Yunj probably wouldn't even look at them. Mr. Qin's eyes darkened. You and Jiao Jiao. Yunj, isn't it time to go eat? Stephen's voice sounded. Bei Yunj turned around and saw that Stephen was still in good spirits. She smiled and said, Well, I have a friend later. Do you mind? What's there to mind? Stephen said and went to change his clothes. The two of them chatted in a familiar tone, as if they were old friends. However, the age difference was a little too big. Mr. Qin, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Mr. Qin reacted and quickly nodded. Okay. Be careful, Gur. Next. Even after Bei Yunj left, Mr. Qin's expression was still gloomy. Mrs. Qin stepped forward and said angrily, Didn't I ask you to tell her to put in a good word for Jiao Jiao? Hearing this, Mr. Qin felt annoyed for no reason. Gur is the one who suffers every time. Why must she listen to me? With that said, Mrs. Qin was stunned for a moment. She could not imagine that these words would come from his mouth. Qin Ting, what do you mean? Bei Yunj is your daughter, but Jiao Jiao isn't? Mrs. Qin suddenly became agitated. She's my daughter to begin with. Mr. Qin reprimanded angrily. Chapter 248. Mrs. Qin's eyes widened as she stared at Mr. Qin in disbelief. All right, you don't want Jiao Jiao anymore? Mr. Qin was furious. Look at what Jiao Jiao has become. She didn't do it on purpose the first time, but what about the second and third time? Every time something happens to Gur, it's related to her. How can I believe her? With that said, suddenly, the sound of something falling to the ground sounded not far away. Mr. and Mrs. Qin turned around and saw Qin Youjiao looking at Mr. Qin in disbelief and grievance with red eyes. At this moment, Mr. Qin panicked inexplicably. After all, this was the child he had doted on for almost 20 years. Jiao Jiao. Qin Youjiao turned around and ran away with red eyes. It's all your fault. How can Bei Yunj compare to Jiao Jiao? Why are all of you slowly standing on her side? Mrs. Qin's heart ached. Looking at the thermos box that had fallen to the ground, she immediately went forward to pick it up. Jiao Jiao is a filial child. If she hears what you said, she will definitely be very sad. Mrs. Qin panicked as well. For a moment, Mr. Qin felt complicated and guilty. He could only turn his face away and pinch the space between his eyebrows tiredly. How could he not want to have a happy family? However, it just so happened that he had carried the wrong child back then. Now, facing his two daughters, he did not know what to do. At noon, Chu Zhixing stood at the entrance of the hospital and waited, feeling inexplicably nervous, until Bei Yunj's voice sounded. Xiaochu. Chu Zhixing turned around and saw Bei Yunj walking over alone. Yunj, how's Grandpa Qin? The surgery was very successful. However, Bei Yunj was a little surprised that Chu Zhixing's first concern was her grandfather. She thought that this fellow should be more concerned about Country R's medical institute. That's good. Chu Zhixing heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. Oh right, who is the person you said you like from Country R's medical institute? Bei Yunj asked again. Hearing this, Chu Zhixing became even more nervous. Mr. Stephen. Bei Yunj was speechless. At this moment, Chu Zhixing suddenly remembered what had happened on the internet yesterday. His eyelids twitched and he took a deep breath calmly. Yunj, you said last time that you would help me talk about the application form. Don't tell me you're planning to look for Mr. Stephen? Yes, I only know him. Bei Yunj nodded without hiding anything. Seeing the complicated and regretful expression on Chu Zhixing's face, Bei Yunj couldn't help but smile. She glanced at her watch and then glanced at the elevator. Coincidentally, she saw Marcus change his clothes and come down. Suddenly, Chu Zhixing, who was in the midst of grief, heard an inexplicably familiar voice. Yunj, can we go to the supermarket later? Your country's instant noodles are really delicious. Stephen said happily. Chu Zhixing raised his head abruptly and saw the person he used to admire the most. This didn't seem to match the character he had in mind. Wasn't Mr. Stephen dressed in a suit and leather shoes every time he attended a meeting? Wasn't he cold and elegant? Although he wasn't very good at country R's language, he understood the phrase by instant noodles. Okay, I'll send you a few boxes when the time comes. Bei Yunj didn't care much and suddenly said, "Oh right, this is my friend, Chu Zhixing. Mr. Stephen." Bei Yunj looked at Chu Zhixing and said concisely. After Chu Zhixing felt his idol's gaze, his body stiffened, and he became nervous. Chapter 249. Hello, student Chu Zhixing. Stephen smiled, not putting on any airs on stage at all. However, for some reason, it made people want to get closer to him. Hello. Stephen was actually not a difficult person to get along with. However, Chu Zhixing's foreign language skills were not very good, so it was a little difficult for the two of them to communicate. However, after dinner, Stephen realized that the boy Bei Yunj brought was very talented in medicine. This made Stephen suddenly feel that Chu Zhixing was an unexpected surprise for him to come to Yuncheng. You signed up for our summer camp? Stephen could not help but laugh. Why don't you consider studying in country R? When the time comes, you can come into contact with our research institute earlier. Hearing this, Chu Zhixing almost dropped his chopsticks. Really, can I really do that? One had to know that the interns recruited by Country R's medical institute were all postgraduate students. Last time, the medicine Yunj asked me to make should be for you, right? Stephen chuckled. Since you're Yunj's friend, there aren't so many rules. Hearing this, Chu Zhixing was stunned for a moment before he realized that his medicine was made by Stephen. Instantly, Chu Zhixing looked at the girl beside him, who was eating with her head buried in her food. His heart seemed to have been brushed by water. On this day, Qin Yu, who had just applied for leave from the director and was about to go to Bei Yunj's parent-teacher conference, suddenly received a call. Have you been home recently? The man's low and calm voice was very pleasant to the ears. However, Qin Yu was inexplicably vigilant. He laughed. I'll be back in a few days. Brother, what happened? Nothing. I prepared some gifts for everyone. The handsome man in the suite hid the coldness in the depths of his dark eyes. It was only when he thought of something that a hint of gentleness appeared. By the way, how's Gu? Hearing Qin Luyan ask about Bei Yunj the moment he came up, Qin Yu was alarmed. In the past, when eldest brother went abroad, he had never cared about Gu, even Qin Youjiao was the same. She's pretty good. Qin Yu thought for a moment, and repeated what had happened at home. When Qin Luyan heard that Qin Youjiao had been sent to stay with Mr. and Mrs. Qin by Qin Lang, his emotions did not fluctuate much. However, when he heard Qin Yu say that Bei Yunj had also gone out to stay, his eyes immediately darkened. She went out to stay? Where did a little girl like her go to live? Hearing his brother's voice darken, Qin Yu didn't dare to tell him that Gu was staying at his friend's house. Don't worry, it's someone I know. Some time ago, Old Master also saw him. There's no problem. Qin Yu leaned against the chair and chuckled. When Qin Luyan heard that, he remained silent for a while before saying unhurriedly, Then it's not appropriate for our Qin family's young lady to live outside. I'll deal with this matter when I get back. Just focus on filming. After that, Qin Luyan hung up the phone. However, Qin Yu inexplicably felt that something was wrong. Big brother, this ice block, when would he start to care for Gu more? Didn't he not even ask about his parents? Qin Yu did not know what Qin Luyan meant by calling either. However, he knew that there would indeed be trouble with Qin Luyan's return. Qin Youjiao knew that he and Qin Lang would ignore her, and would definitely think of ways to make eldest brother stand on her side. If that was the case, it would be troublesome. Chapter 250. Then wouldn't Qin Youjiao have found a backer? Qin Yu pursed his lips, feeling that this matter might become troublesome. At the same time, Mrs. Qin also held Qin Youjiao's hand happily. Jiao Jiao, your older brother is coming back. You've suffered during this period of time. When eldest brother comes back, he will definitely help you. Eldest brother is coming back? Qin Youjiao's eyes lit up and she looked up at Mrs. Qin. She had finally waited for eldest brother to return. One had to know that the true person in charge of the Qin family was still eldest brother. Second brother and third brother had no interest in business. For so many years, eldest brother had been the one managing the Chin group alone. Yes, if you have any grievances, tell eldest brother. Mrs. Chin could not help but laugh. Your eldest brother looks cold to everyone. But Jiao Jiao, you know very well that eldest brother will grant your every request. A strange glint flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes and she tugged at Mrs. Qin and said coquettishly, "So, I like eldest brother the most." After what she did to Bei Yunj this time, Mr. Qin had already started to suspect her. Fortunately, when Mr. Qin saw her run out crying, he had already dispelled his suspicions and even felt guilty. In the evening, the moment Bei Yunj returned, she saw the man sitting on the sofa. "Brother." Bei Yunj called out and was about to go upstairs to take a shower. Who knew? The man put out the cigarette casually and suddenly looked up, saying slowly, "Yin, older brother has something to discuss with you." However, Bei Yunj looked at the handsome and dignified man in front of her, and remembered how this man had looked when he was bursting with desire last time. "What's wrong?" Bei Yunj still walked towards him, deliberately not looking into his eyes. "Why were you angry last time?" Huashida's gaze landed on Bei Yunj unwaveringly. His tone was casual as he dragged out his words. "Did older brother bully you?" These words were clearly very normal. However, when he said this, it inexplicably became ambiguous and made her face turn red. Bei Yunj thought of what this man had said to her in the closet and smiled. "Yes. Older brother, you're very good at bullying people." At this moment, Huashida didn't think about anything else. After all, he had drunk too much in the past and did not have the habit of touching girls. "Then let me apologize to you. Yin, don't take it to heart, okay?" Huashida's thin red lips curled up, and he bent down to look at her at eye level. His tone was natural and intimate as he coaxed her. This man had always been very good to her and even took special care of her feelings. But for some reason, Bei Yunj was not very happy when she saw that this man could not remember anything at all. "Were you drunk last time? What happened?" Bei Yunj asked. That night, when she was drying Huashida's hair, she felt that his body was cold. Those who didn't know better would think that he had taken a cold shower. The corners of Huashida's lips curled up slightly. His posture was lazy and frivolous. He reached out carelessly and gently rubbed her cheek. "Yes, big brother accidentally drank a little." "Are you in a bad mood?" Bei Yunj glanced at him, and an indescribable feeling rose in her heart. In her heart, this man was what others called a flower on top of a mountain. He would get whatever he wanted. How could he not be happy? "That's not the reason, but I'm indeed not too happy." Huashida's low and magnetic laughter flowed out as his throat moved. The next moment, he scratched the girl's chin again. "But next time, older brother will come back earlier." Chapter 251. The man's pale-colored and abstinent eyes turned gentle. His seductive low voice could easily tickle one's eardrums. "Brother will be happy when he looks at Yun. Wasn't this man apologizing just now?" Huashida's eyes darkened when he saw the little girl's bright black eyes staring at him with an inexplicable emotion. Then he let out a long laugh. His deep and magnetic voice seemed to be deliberately seductive. "Yun, don't look at me like that. Brother can't handle it." Bei Yunj. The next time this man drank, she would definitely record it. She would let him see clearly who was the one who couldn't handle it. Seeing that Bei Yunj's expression was awkward again, Huashida said, "Then I'll promise Yun one thing." "How about that?" "I don't want to go to school anymore." Bei Yunj said this almost without thinking. Who would have thought? Huashida looked at her for a while, and only laughed. His posture was seductive and ostentatious. "Sure, then Yun will come over early and manage the company for brother." Bei Yunj? Question mark. Was this what a qualified domineering CEO would say? Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes twitched. "What about you? Brother, just serve our Yun." The man casually played with the silver lighter on his phone. His low and magnetic laughter was light and lazy. His gaze was straight and lustful. It made one's heart beat wildly. Bei Yunj. He was no longer treating her as a younger sister. It was more like he was raising her as a daughter. Be obedient. Come down and do your homework later. Brother will teach you, he said. Bei Yunj was about to scold him in her heart when she suddenly felt the man's half-smiling gaze. Brother, weren't you apologizing to me just now? Bei Yunj asked. Why did it become him supervising her homework in the end? Yes, I forgot to ask Yunyun, how did I bully you? Huashidu remembered that when he drank too much in the past, he would at most go to bed early. For a moment, Bei Yunj was a little silent. When Huashidu saw this, he suddenly sensed the little girl's abnormality. Huashida's throat bobbed. Yunyun. Brother took away my pen the moment he saw me. Bei Yunj glanced at him. Because of this? The man licked his thin red lips. His low and hoarse laughter was sexy and pleasing to the ear. He was a little surprised that he would do something like this in his unconscious state. He was also surprised that Bei Yunj had argued with him for so long because of this. Looking at the man's calm expression, Bei Yunj suddenly laughed. Her clear eyes looked harmless. I asked my brother if he could lift up his shirt and show it to me. My brother said that he would only show it to me when we entered the room. Huashidu felt that these words did not sound like something he would say, but the young lady had indeed been awkward for 2 days. The man looked at Bei Yunj and thought, Brother, don't tell me you've forgotten everything you've done? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and said with a smile. Suddenly, Huashidu laughed again. His dark and unreadable gaze landed on her. Then does Yunyun still want to see it? Bei Yunj's smile froze. Question mark. It's okay. Although Yunyun's preferences are special, it's quite embarrassing. Huashidu casually threw the silver lighter on the sofa, not caring much. Brother? Bei Yunj suddenly had a bad feeling. Then, before Bei Yunj could speak, the man had already taken off his tie. His lazy and playful voice was frivolous and straightforward. Chapter 252. There's no need to explain. I'll try my best to satisfy Yunyun. She had never seen the man's figure, but the last time in the wardrobe, it felt firm and hard. However, when the man was wearing a shirt, it did not show and only made people feel that he was refined and dignified. Brother. Bei Yunj grabbed the man's cold hand and looked up. Should I do my homework? I think so. The man's pale-colored eyes could not hide the smile in them. I'll go take a shower first and go downstairs to do my homework. With that said, Bei Yunj immediately went upstairs. Seeing this, the man chuckled. His upturned eyes were charming and his posture was light and lazy. The little girl was so easily angered. How could she let him lift his shirt? Ever since she knew that Qin Luyan was coming back, Qin Youjiao seemed to have become bolder. In the live stream, when Qin Youjiao was chatting with a small celebrity she had just met, she inadvertently led the small celebrity to talk about Bei Yunj. It caused a lot of discussion. However, at the same time, the entire internet was very interested in Bei Yunj, who had never appeared before. After being talked about for so long, she was either scared or too lazy to care. No one thought that Bei Yunj would be the former. However, everyone felt that if Bei Yunj appeared in the public eye, the scene would definitely be exciting and fresh. Before the crowd could calm down, they saw someone coming down personally to tear Qin Youjiao apart. You Manran, your father Pei is a brick. He will move wherever he is needed. Heartbroken with this post, many netizens discussed fervently. Ha 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 ha. Sister man, what's wrong with you? Do you know Bei Yunj? Daddy Pei. Sister man, are you still the big boss of the industry I know? Work harder, you're number one. Doghead. And no wonder artistes can never be seen in public. They like to suck up to rich people? Let me take a look. Which sour chicken is this again? Can't you stand properly on the streets? You're being blind again. Everyone in the industry understood this kind of hype. Qin Yu naturally knew that once he replied, he would be trying to gain popularity for Qin Youjiao. If he didn't reply, she would think that he had acquiesced to Qin Youjiao's relationship. Therefore, at the end of the month, Qin Yu had sent lawyers' letters to nearly 30 netizens, including the small celebrity who had Bei Yunj in the live stream. This move shocked everyone. After all, when Qin Yu had just entered the industry, there had been a huge commotion, but she had never seen him send a lawyer's letter in a stack. As expected of Qin Yu, the crazy sister control maniac. Seeing these dozens of lawyers' letters and Yu Man ran publicly attacking her, Qin Youjiao was so angry that her face turned green. However, what surprised Qin Youjiao even more was that she received a call from her manager. Jiao Jiao, there's a problem with our company. We're having a hard time with cash flow, and we're being held back by someone. We might not be able to last for more than 2 months. Hearing this, Qin Youjiao's face paled. What? Qin Youjiao clenched her fists tightly. If this news got out, she would definitely be the first to be laughed at. When she signed with her second brother's studio back then, she had been eliminated in the first round. Now that she had finally signed with a good company, such a thing actually happened. Why did this happen? Qin Youjiao took a deep breath. Her manager was also very busy. I think I offended someone. Jiao Jiao, do you know the whole corporation? In an instant, Qin Youjiao's face paled. Her mind was in a mess and she couldn't hear what her manager was saying at all. Jiao Jiao, are you listening to me? Chapter 253. Others did not know why the company had offended the whole corporation. But Qin Youjiao knew it clearly. It was all because of that man. Qin Youjiao's eyes widened as she gritted her teeth, feeling extremely indignant. How could this be? That man was already willing to do this for Bei Yunj. Time passed and it was Friday for the parent-teacher conference. Most of the students in Class 1 and Class 2 were refreshed. On the other hand, the usually arrogant and domineering Class 7 was strangely quiet. Deskmate, who's attending your parent-teacher conference this time? Lu Yuanxi and Bei Yunj went outside to get some water. My brother. Bei Yunj narrowed her eyes. She had only mentioned this to Huashidu casually once, and did not know if he remembered. Back then, she had only wanted to suppress her grades and had forgotten that she might be scolded at the parent-teacher conference. I see. Lu Yuanxi did not ask further. The moment he thought of Qin Yu's guard against him, his scalp turned numb. The older brothers of the Qin family were each more impressive than the other. At this moment, Mr. and Mrs. Qin had arrived a long time ago and many parents of students came forward to greet them. After all, this was the Qin family in Yuncheng. I'm going to attend the parent-teacher conference for Guer. You can attend it for Jiao Jiao. Hearing this, Mrs. Qin's expression changed immediately. Did you agree to attend the parent-teacher conference today to attend it for her? Mr. Qin, whose thoughts had been exposed, looked embarrassed. But Qin Yu has work and I don't know when Qin Lang will come. Then what did you promise Jiao Jiao? Mrs. Qin refused to let it go. Have you forgotten how Jiao Jiao cried in front of you last time? What will Jiao Jiao think if you attend her parent-teacher conference this time? With that said, Mr. Qin's expression did not look too good. Right now, Bei Yunj, who was wandering around the school, was still thinking about whether she should get Si Qingyan to help. Soon. Coincidentally, Bei Yunj happened to be walking towards Mr. and Mrs. Qin. Mr. Qin was stunned for a moment. Bei Yunj glanced at them, and prepared to leave as if she did not see them. Guh! Mr. Qin subconsciously shouted. Mrs. Qin, who was beside him, pulled him back and could not help but ask, Are you crazy? Qin Ji Ai didn't know when it started, but every time Qin Ji Ai's father was alone, his mind would wander off and he would mention Bei Yunj. What's the matter? Bei Yunj glanced sideways at him. Did anyone attend the parent-teacher conference for you? Dad can. Thank you, Mr. Qin. Someone will come. Bei Yunj smiled. Her bright eyes were lazy and beautiful. There was no deliberate estrangement, nor was there any friendliness. It was as if they were strangers who could greet each other when they met. This feeling was like a blunt knife cutting into Father Qin's heart. It was a bloody pain. Oh, I see. Mr. Qin stiffened and nodded. All right. If Guer needs anything, you can look for me. Thank you, Mr. Qin. Bei Yunj smirked and her eyes happened to glance at Qin Youjiao, who was walking over, before she turned around and left. After Bei Yunj left, Qin Youjiao went forward and held Mrs. Qin and Mr. Qin's arms. Dad, Mom, what are you doing? Qin Youjiao pretended not to see Bei Yunj, and was in high spirits. It's nothing. I met someone I know just now and chatted for a while. Mrs. Qin smiled and accompanied Qin Youjiao to class. Many people saw the scene of this family of three and couldn't help but discuss it. Mrs. Qin and Mr. Qin only attend the parent-teacher conference for Qin Youjiao. Chapter 254. Someone could not help asking. Then Bei Yunji's parent-teacher conference will also be held by Brother Qin? Right. After all, the one he brought back from outside can't compare to the one he has always doted on. Besides, any normal person would want to hold Qin Youjiao's and Bei Yunji's parent-teacher conference. The difference in results was too big. One was second in the cohort, and the other was 28th from the bottom. Compared to him, it was really embarrassing. Besides, Bei Yunji was personally raised by Director Lin, but her results were only SOSO. Now that you mention it, I still feel that Bei Yunji's status is not legitimate. How prestigious can it be for her brother to hold it? The girl who was discussing shook her head. So what if she's not legitimate? Didn't we work so hard to get into Yinqing University? Once something happened to Master Pei, the teachers of Yinqing University almost became her support group. Another person who was chewing on an apple sighed. Forget it, let's not worry about it. Hearing this, the girl immediately retorted. Isn't it because of Director Lin? But it's impossible for Bei Yunji to get into Yin University because of Director Lin. In the office, Bei Yunji had just passed by when she saw a familiar figure. It was her first time seeing Qin Lang appear so formally in a suit and leather shoes. Besides, he appeared beside her form teacher. Bei Yunji sized up Qin Lang and saw that he was a little nervous but was pretending to be calm. Our third brother is here for your parent-teacher conference. Don't worry, third brother won't embarrass you. Where did this news leak out? Bei Yunji happened to see the form teacher, who was a little guilty, from the corner of her eye and raised an eyebrow. Come. Student Pei, bring your third brother to the classroom. Bei Yunji never thought that she would have a parent-teacher conference group, and two indecent brothers who would count down to the parent-teacher conference in the group every day. Bei Yunji's lips moved. Actually, I've already. Someone came to the parent-teacher conference. Suddenly, Qin Lang heard a commotion and had a bad feeling. Then, he turned his head and saw someone who shouldn't be there. Qin Yu, why are you here? Bei Yunji froze. Even though the class teacher had seen the world, this was the first time she had seen parents of students with poor grades rushing to attend a parent-teacher conference. Moreover, they were parents who had a full schedule. I took a few days off and dyed my hair back while I was at it. Guer's parent-teacher conference, and having blue hair is not good for her image. Qin Yu smiled slightly and glanced at Qin Lang's iconic silver hair. The homeroom teacher closed his eyes in exhaustion. It's starting again. They're starting to talk to each other again. Every day after work, during his free time, he could almost always see the content of these two in Bei Yunji's parents' group chat. They didn't look like brothers at all. They looked more like enemies who were vying for favor and love. Qin Yu, what do you mean? Is there anyone with silver hair more handsome than me? Qin Lang was enraged. The two of them looked like they were about to start a fight in public. Seeing this, Bei Yunji's eyelids twitched. You suddenly. Qin Youjiao's cheerful voice sounded from the end of the long corridor in the distance. Brother, why are you here? In an instant, Qin Lang and Qin Yu stopped fighting, and both of them looked at the noble man who was wearing an exquisite black suit, and whose eyes were as dark as ink. Chapter 255. Qin Luyan buttoned his sleeves slowly and ignored Qin Youjiao. This made Qin Youjiao's expression freeze. Brother, my class is here. Qin Youjiao said coquettishly. Didn't you say that you brought us gifts? Hearing this, Qin Luyan's eyes landed on her, and he suddenly snorted. His low and magnetic voice was inexplicably cold. I brought you a gift. You'll know when you get back. With that said, Qin Luyan glanced sideways and did not look at Qin Youjiao again. Brother, thank you. Before Qin Youjiao could show a bright smile, she saw Qin Luyan walking towards Class 7. This scene, not only Qin Youjiao, even the others could not help but stare fixedly at him. It had to be said that the three older brothers of the Qin family were all very handsome, but eldest brother's aura was outstanding and gave people an unreachable feeling. Only one word appeared in everyone's minds. Unapproachable. I'm sorry, Teacher One. I'm late. Guer's parent-teacher conference hasn't started yet, right? Qin Luyan said slowly. With that said, the form teacher froze. Qin Yu and Qin Lang turned their heads instinctively and looked at Qin Luyan in disbelief. What was going on with eldest brother? Didn't he hate such meetings the most? Did someone call him for Guer's parent-teacher conference? Brother, I came to the parent-teacher conference first. Qin Lang said unhappily. Before Qin Yu could finish speaking, he and Qin Lang felt a threat in Qin Luyan's lazy gaze. Qin Yu and Qin Lang were speechless. Was there a need? Were they biological brothers? Why did he have to fight with them for a parent-teacher conference? At this moment, the atmosphere was awkward. In the next second, Bei Yunji's phone vibrated. She opened her phone and saw that it was a message from Huashidu. I'm almost there. Bei Yunji's pretty eyes moved. How could this situation continue to develop? Deskmate, you're good. Qin Yojiao called 2 over and you're missing 1. Lu Yuanci teased softly beside her. Bei Yunji smiled at him. There are 4. Lu Yuanci was speechless. It was his first time seeing such a big commotion at the parent-teacher conference. It was not only Class 7, even the students from the class next door were discussing it. F***CK. I thought that Qin Yojiao asked her parents to attend the parent-teacher conference was to show off that she was a legitimate daughter. Now that I look at it, I feel like Bei Yunji has a heavenly group standing beside her. Someone could not help but mock her. I'm going to die of laughter for Qin Yojiao too. She's so flirtatious online, yet she's still pretending to be innocent. Now, no matter how bad Bei Yunji's results are, there are people fighting to attend her parent-teacher conference. Logically speaking, Bei Yunji has only been back for 2 to 3 years. Why do the Qin brothers like her so much? Is hers is. Hearing these discussions, Qin Yojiao's face paled and her eyes were filled with hatred as she looked at Bei Yunji. Her fingers were clenched so tightly that they turned white. Bei Yunji. Everywhere, Bei Yunji was slapping her in the face. A dark look flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes. At last, the form teacher went to another class and asked for a few chairs, so that these 3 big shots could sit down. In Class 7's classroom, a group of girls was outside the window. When they saw Qin Luyan and the rest sitting in a row, they almost screamed. These were male idols. All of them were popular male idols. Chapter 256. Even the parents looked at Qin Luyan from time to time. Qin Luyan and the other 2 were used to it and felt like they were basking in the spring breeze. However, Bei Yunji, who was sitting at the side, felt a little complicated. Especially at this moment, Lu Yuanci was even giving her an encouraging look. Bei Yunji was speechless. Who would be willing to bring a group of people to watch when they failed all the tests? However, other than Bei Yunji, the 3 brothers of the Qin family were in a good mood at this parent-teacher conference. Her foreign language score is very high, 87 marks. Qin Lang started to boast. In time our Guer can even be a translator. With that said, the parent, who had reprimanded her child because she only scored 100 marks for her foreign language, almost spat out a mouthful of water. With this standard, she could be a translator? Are you dreaming? Then, Qin Yu did not want to be outdone. He picked up Bei Yunji's Chinese paper. Guer's Chinese results are quite good too. Her ancient poems are all correct. Oh right, second brother wants to release a national song next time. How about Guer write the lyrics for second brother? The parents beside him could not stand it anymore. Wasn't he King pampering her too much? He could boast about 70 to 80 marks. At this moment, only a few students whose results were about the same as Bei Yunji's looked at her in admiration, and even gave her a thumbs up. As expected of Bei Yunji, the brothers at home were each more amazing than the other. Bei Yunji's bright and arrogant eyes darkened visibly as she resisted the urge to walk out. This scene made Lu Yuanci lie on the table, but he could not help but cover his abdomen with one hand as he suppressed his laughter. Not long after, the short class meeting was finally over, and the parents all walked towards the conference hall. Good, don't worry. Even if our girl scores 0, it's not a big deal, Chinyu said. Bae-yunj glanced at the time, and felt that Hoshida might be coming. Actually, Bae-yunj looked up at Chinyu. I've already asked Brother Shidu to help me with the parent-teacher conference. He's here too. Chinyu was stunned. Bae-yunj, yes. Chinyu thought for a while. It's fine. Then the 5 of us will sit in a row. Bae-yunj. Forget it. Hongda's conference hall was indeed very big. A few minutes later, sure enough, when Bae-yunj and the others entered the venue, a tall figure appeared. Chinyu's eyes were sharp and he saw Hoshidu immediately. Master Du here. Hearing this, Hoshidu looked towards Chinyu. However, he did not expect that other than him, there would be someone else holding a parent-teacher conference for Bae-yunj. Moreover, there was more than one. However, Hoshidu didn't think too much about it, and walked towards Bae-yunj. At the same time, many people's gazes fell on Hoshidu. She originally thought that the 3 brothers of the Qin family were already eye-catching enough, but she didn't expect another godlike man to appear. The handsome man was also dressed in formal wear, but his eyebrows were clear and noble. He had wide shoulders and a narrow waist, and his legs were slender and excessively ascetic. His casual and lazy appearance was still impossible to ignore. I'm gone. What kind of exquisite man is this? Is this also Bae-yunj's brother? Sob, sob, sob. How can he be a man who looks exactly like me? I like mature men too much. Compared to the stinky younger brothers in school, who doesn't like a gentle and hormonal older brother? Chapter 257. Stop talking. Whether it's the school hunk or the domineering CEO, they're not ours. With that said, everyone seemed to hear the faint sound of their hearts breaking. Wasn't this too real? At this moment, Bae-yunj raised an eyebrow and turned around quickly. However, she had clearly heard the girls' discussion just now. Seeing that the young lady not far away had suddenly turned her head and did not look at him anymore, Hoshidu raised his eyebrows and did not say anything. Master Du, aren't you being too diligent? You even came to my sister's parent-teacher conference, Chinyu said happily. Hearing this, Hoshidu glanced at him and said carelessly, I didn't expect someone to come either. And there were 3 of them. It's all right. It's not troublesome to have more people. Let's listen together. Chinyu was very generous. Bae-yunj was controlling her expression very well. Sir, you are? Qin Luyan's gaze had been on Hoshidu. At this moment, Hoshidu glanced sideways. His attitude was neither close nor distant. He smirked. Hoshidu, I've heard a lot about you. So it's President Hua. Qin Luyan was indeed surprised. He did not expect the person in front of him to be the rumored heir of the Hua Corporation. I heard Yunyun mention President Qin. After Hoshidu finished speaking, Bae-yunj glanced at him in confusion. When had she mentioned Qin Luyan? However, at this moment, when Qin Yu and Qin Lang heard this, their hearts ached inexplicably. Guor had actually mentioned Big Brother. Then did he never mention them? Qin Luyan smiled and chatted casually with Hoshidu for a while. After that, the 2 of them had no intention of continuing. A row of 5 people sat together in the conference hall. Bae-yunj, who was in the middle, was a little silent. It was only when she felt Hoshidu's gaze from the side that she leaned closer to Hoshidu unconsciously, and explained softly in his ear. I didn't know they were here either. She knew that this scene was very out of control. We'll talk when we get back. Let's attend the parent-teacher conference first. Bae-yunj was speechless. There was no need to be so serious. Qin Luyan, who had been observing Hoshidu, also realized that the man's motive seemed to be only for the parent-teacher conference. He could not help but darken his eyes. Brother, why are you looking at Master Du? Qin Yu asked. Qin Luyan turned around. You know him? Guor lives in his house. Qin Yu was stunned for a moment before he quickly spoke up for Hoshidu. Don't worry. I've known him since high school and I've never seen him fall for anyone. How could there be such a coincidence when an iron tree blossoms? Qin Lian frowned. He indeed did not see Huashida doing anything inappropriate to Gu. He observed for 10 minutes, and it was mostly Gu who was chatting with him. The man listened attentively, but his eyes were fixed on the PowerPoint slide that was automatically rolling on the screen. The two people who were being observed. Brother, do you know my monthly test results? Bei Yunj was considering whether she should let Huashida be mentally prepared. Huashida looked up and chuckled softly. No need. I want to maintain a sense of anticipation. Bei Yunj was speechless, looking at the usually bright and arrogant little girl who wanted to say something but was hesitating with a complicated expression. Huashida could not help but smile. Brother, I'm afraid you won't be able to accept it, Bei Yunj said honestly. She had to know that she still had to attend the parent-teacher conference. At the very least, she would pass all of them. Yun, have some confidence in yourself, the man said slowly. P.S. There are 19 chapters here. Old Su is continuing to write. You will see 30 chapters before midnight. Be obedient and remember the monthly ticket. Sleep early and good night. Chapter 258. After struggling for a moment, Bei Yunj decided to give up. However, on the other side, Qin Youjiao gritted her teeth when she saw this scene. At first, she thought that Bei Yunj would only embarrass herself at this parent-teacher conference. However, she did not expect Qin Yu to take leave to attend Bei Yunj's parent-teacher conference. And big brother and that man. Jiao? Did you see that? She's second in the level again. Her results are very stable. Mrs. Qin could not help but laugh, her eyes filled with glee. This should be her daughter. Of course, I can't embarrass Mom. The darkness in Qin Youjiao's eyes dissipated and she smiled at her. The school leaders spoke for more than 10 minutes. Not long after, the top 100 and bottom 100 of the grade ranking were displayed on the screen. However, in order to make things less awkward for the bottom 100 students, the school leaders chose to only show the students' surnames and student numbers. Yunyan, you should be the only one with the surname Pei in the entire level, right? The man glanced at the 28th place from the bottom and turned around, his tone cynical. Bei Yunj was speechless. Big brother looks quite sad when he sees it like this. Bei Yunj was speechless. Until the parent-teacher conference ended. The form teacher of class 7 even specially asked Bei Yunj to stay. Student Pei, which brother usually cares more about your studies? I still have something on, so I have to talk to you privately. There's no need for the other parents. The form teacher was also a little guilty. With so many brothers surrounding him. What if they didn't like what he said and hit him directly? With that said, without waiting for the Qin brothers to look forward to it, Bei Yunj looked at Huashidu, her excessively beautiful eyes curved. She reached out and tugged at Huashida's sleeve. Brother? Seeing this, Qin Yu and Qin Lang could not help but turn red. Her 3 biological brothers were here, but Gur did not choose any of them. However, Qin Luyan's eyes darkened and he glanced at Huashidu. He was selfish and did not want Gu to have too much contact with other men. But now Gur might not be the same as before. She might not have so many expectations for her big brother. Gur, you want Mr. Hua to be your parent? Qin Luyan pursed his lips and asked gently. Yes. Bei Yunj answered without hesitation. When the 3 brothers heard this, they were silent for a moment and did not say anything else. Thank you, Mr. Hua. Qin Luyan nodded at Huashidu. Huashida glanced at Bei Yunj and smiled imperceptibly. It's no trouble. When Huashidu entered the office and chatted with the form teacher privately, Bei Yunj leaned against the wall alone. A short while later, Qin Youjiao's voice appeared at an inappropriate time. She held Qin Luyan's hand and smiled. Big brother, let's go eat. Mom said that since I won an award this time, let's go out to eat together. A dark look flashed past Qin Luyan's eyes and he glanced at his watch. He looked up at Qin Youjiao. You don't have to go out to eat. I got someone to prepare it at home. Let's go back to the old mansion together. Hearing this, Qin Youjiao could not suppress the excitement in her eyes. Really? Big brother? It had been a long time since she stayed in the old mansion. However, Big Brother was the most powerful person in the family now. Even the old master would listen to Big Brother a little. Qin Luyan did not answer this question. Instead, he glanced at Qin Yu and Qin Lang and said calmly, "You guys can come too. Dad and Mom too." Qin Yu inexplicably felt that something big was about to happen, but it was not easy to figure it out. Chapter 259. After all, eldest brother's temper was unpredictable to begin with. Qin Yu and Qin Lang only left reluctantly after greeting Bei Yunj. On the other hand, Bei Yunj leaned against the wall and knocked on the wall in boredom. "You haven't left yet?" Lu Yuanxi was a little surprised. "My brother is having a private conversation inside." Bei Yunj glanced at him. "Why didn't your parents come?" "My parents are overseas. The old madam has something on today, so she didn't come." Hearing this, Bei Yunj nodded. "Then you should go back early. The person inside isn't your biological brother, right?" Lu Yuanxi suddenly asked. Bei Yunj did not intend to hide it. Lu Yuanxi's eyes darkened and no one knew what he was thinking. "All right, then you should go back early. I'll get going first." "Okay, bye." Bei Yunj waved. Huashidu went in for about half an hour before the door opened. The moment Bei Yunj saw Huashidu come out, she felt an inexplicable sense of guilt. "Let's go. I'll take you to eat. Auntie Meow isn't around today. Let's go to the restaurant," Huashidu said. "Okay." Bei Yunj followed Huashidu all the way until she got into the car and fastened her seatbelt. She asked calmly, "Brother, why aren't you saying anything?" The man said slowly, "It's brother's first time coming to school to be scolded. I haven't thought of what to say yet." Through the rearview mirror, Huashidu saw Bei Yunj's expression and his thin red lips curled up. Teacher Wen said that Yunyun is very smart, but she doesn't like to study. "Yunyun, tell brother why you don't want to study. Is it because of the Qin family?" Bei Yunj, "No." "Then is it because of brother?" Bei Yunj's answer was even faster. "No." Hearing this, Huashidu chuckled softly again and glanced at the girl beside him lightly. He dragged out his voice. "Then do you have to make brother unhappy?" Bei Yunj. Seeing that the girl had fallen silent, Huashidu suddenly said casually, "Yunyun." Bei Yunj looked up at him. Huashidu added, "Open the drawer in front of you." Bei Yunj did not hesitate. She turned around and opened the drawer. She found that it was filled with a lot of candy. "It's okay if you don't do well. Brother will teach you well." Bei Yunj glanced sideways and saw the man's superior jawline and handsome and noble eyes. His magnetic and lazy chuckle tickled her eardrums. "I was just teasing you just now. How can I bully our Yunyun like this?" Bei Yunj's heart beat faster for some reason. She took a piece of candy and peeled it with her eyes lowered. "Brother, do you want some? It's for you. Big brother doesn't eat anything too sweet." At night, Qin family's old residence. 6 people were seated at the round table. "Lu Yan, you're finally back. I haven't seen you for a long time. Have you lost weight?" Mrs. Qin was very happy tonight. The people he wanted to see were all there, and the people he didn't want to see weren't there. "No." Qin Luyan's tone was calm as he said, "Mom, I've prepared a few boxes of pearls and diamonds for you. Didn't you want the designer to design them for you last time?" "Did you hear that? Lu Yan is much more filial than the two of you." Mrs. Qin was overjoyed. "Second brother, third brother, and dad, I've prepared them too. The assistant will bring them over later." Qin Luyan slowly cut the steak and took a sip of red wine. "Big brother, what about me?" Qin Yu pouted coquettishly, thinking that Qin Luyan wanted to give her a surprise. Chapter 260. Of course you have one too. Qin Luyan glanced at her and suddenly smirked. "What did Big Brother prepare for me?" Qin Yojia was excited. Ever since Bei Yunj came out of the mental hospital, second brother, third brother and the rest had never prepared a gift for her. "I prepared a household registration certificate for you." Qin Luyan's slow words made Qin Yojiao's face pale. The knife and fork in Mrs. Chen's hand also fell to the ground. Then she quickly stood up. Luyan, what nonsense are you talking about? At this moment, Qin Yu and Qin Lang sat quietly, looking at Qin Luyan in admiration. As expected of Big Brother. Mom, your daughter can have someone else, but the elder young miss of the Qin family can only be Bei Yunj. Qin Luyan put down the red wine glass and wiped his thin lips. However, this refined and elegant appearance made people's hair stand on end. Within moments, Qin Luyan took the household registration certificate from the side and put on his gold-rimmed glasses. The man was still refined and handsome. His tone was neither fast nor slow, but it was a little unreasonable. After tonight, Miss Qin Yojiao will move out of the Qin family. Qin Luyan, how dare you? Mrs. Qin's voice became shrill as she roared angrily. That's not right either. Qin Luyan ignored Mrs. Qin and said with a smile. The name Qin Yojiao was prepared for Gu'er. Although Gu'er doesn't need it anymore, it shouldn't be yours. Big brother, you. Qin Yojiao's face paled and she immediately went forward to pull Qin Luyan. Her entire body was trembling as she said with a sobbing tone. Big brother, why did you become like this too? But I didn't do anything. Why are you chasing me away? I can give you the name, but this surname must be changed back, Miss Zhang. Qin Luyan's last 3 words almost made Qin Yojiao's face turn pale. Back then, when Bei Yunj was found, the Qin family had also found her biological father, who was the director of the mental hospital. However, Qin Yojiao despised her biological father for opening a mental hospital and doing illegal things, so she had always been reluctant to go home. In fact, after her biological father was cut by Bei Yunj, Qin Yojiao had never thought of going back to take a look. Big brother, don't do this. Qin Yojiao's makeup was ruined from crying and she was out of breath. I don't want to go back. Can you not make me go back? I will never go against Bei Yunj again. Please. Qin Luyan flung Qin Yojiao's hand away and said coldly, tomorrow morning, everyone will know that Bei Yunj is the only eldest young miss of the Qin family. In his previous life, he had also thought of doting on this little sister of his. But who would have thought that when his leg was broken by that woman back then, Qin Yojiao would run over eagerly and become that woman's good friend. She even helped that woman and forced him to marry her. He wanted him to marry a woman who had ruined the Qin family. What a joke. Qin Luyan restrained the coldness and hostility in his eyes, and the indifference in his eyes returned to normal. But now, everything could be redone. Then, what he wanted to do was to protect Gu'er and the Qin family. Luyan, don't go overboard. Father Qin said in a deep voice. Although he wanted Gu'er to come back, he did not want Jiao Jiao to leave either. After leaving the Qin family, Jiao Jiao would definitely suffer a lot. Dad, Mom, I've already bought a manor for the 2 of you in our nation. If you want to go, I'll get someone to send you there tomorrow. Chapter 261. Hearing this, even Qin Yu and Qin Lang sucked in a breath of cold air. What was eldest brother doing? Forcing her to abdicate. If Mr. and Mrs. Qin did not let Qin Yojiao leave, he would send these 2 people overseas directly? This was too ruthless. He was indeed the man who Grandpa had said was the most capable of inheriting the family business. Seeing this, Qin Yu and Qin Lang felt a refreshing wind blow from their tailbones to the back of their heads. They felt refreshed. It was a pity that they could not record this exciting scene. Qin Luyan, what do you mean? Are you going against the heavens? Mrs. Qin looked at him in disbelief. Qin Luyan did not have much emotion. He had probably guessed that Mrs. Qin would be like this. He chuckled. If you say so, then so be it. Luyan, there are some things that you have to think carefully. Is what you're doing really right? Mr. Qin said in a low voice. Dad, don't worry. I will never regret what I've done in this life. Qin Luyan smirked at him. Then the father and son looked at each other. One had a complicated gaze while the other was calm. The night was rainy. Qin Luyan looked at the girl in front of him. She was crying so hard that she could not breathe, but there was no pity in his eyes. I've already gotten someone to change your school record. From now on, you have nothing to do with our Qin family. Eldest brother, I'm begging you. Can you not chase me away? I'm not the eldest young miss of the Qin family. Please let me stay, okay? Qin Yojiao grabbed Qin Luyan's hand and begged. She was drenched and looked disheveled, her eyes filled with tears. However, looking at this scene, Qin Luyan chuckled. This scene was too familiar. In his previous life, when Guer was seriously ill, he had also climbed down from the wheelchair on this rainy day and knelt down to beg this woman, hoping that she could give some medical fees to save Guer. But in the end, she broke that bank card in front of him. She leaned in front of him and smiled. Eldest brother, even if you're not my eldest brother now, I won't give it to anyone else even if I'm ruined. Do you understand? Qin Luyan lifted her chin, but his black eyes were filled with coldness. His smiling voice made one shiver. Qin Yojiao, I didn't kill you because I had my reservations. Is that clear? After saying this, Qin Yojiao looked into Qin Luyan's cold eyes and the coldness spread to her bones unconsciously. She shuddered. Big brother had never looked at her like that before. Such a big brother was too terrifying. The next day, another explosive piece of news came from the Qin clan, shocking everyone. Qin Yojiao, who was doted on by the Qin family, was actually not Mr. Qin and Mrs. Qin's biological daughter. Instead, he had been swapped with someone else back then. That was why Qin Yojiao had been occupying her place for so many years. She enjoyed all the rights that belonged to Bei Yunj. When this news came out, many people thought it was fake news. However, they soon realized that the person who had sent the application was the Qin Corporation. If that was the case, then wasn't Qin Yojiao's condescending Bei Yunj too disgusting? She ate someone else's food, used someone else's things, and even took over someone else's parents and brother for almost 20 years. She actually had the cheek to pretend to be aggrieved. What kind of pretentious White Lotus was this? However, what was even more confusing was Mrs. Qin's statement of severing ties back then. What was wrong with doting on a fake daughter and abandoning her biological daughter? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.